Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call tonight's council meeting to order. It is 6 p.m., and I'd like to start by reading the following. If you would like to provide public comments at tonight's City Council meeting in another language other than English, please visit the City Clerk to fill out a speaker card. To ensure a smooth and orderly transition, we will order comments from non-English public speakers at the end. Place them in order, is what that means, as the City Clerk will need time to set up our interpretation service for translating. Thank you for your cooperation. Tonight's meeting will be translated into Spanish via Wordly, a real-time app to translate English into Spanish. To access the translation services, please scan the QR code on the TV screens. I'm not seeing it yet. And also on the agenda. Click Attend, and this will take you to the transcription page. To change the language, click the language button in the upper right-hand corner. Over 30 languages are available to choose from, Spanish being one of them. The service will automatically begin transcribing the meeting audio in your chosen language. If you prefer to listen to the translation, click the 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner and select Voice. All right, with that, we move to the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Councilmember Tovar.
Join us. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We don't have an invocation tonight, so no. Yes, you can all be seated. All right. City Clerk's report on posting the agenda and roll call.
Tonight's agenda was posted on Thursday, April 13 at 5:06 p.m. Councilmember Armendariz?
Present.
Councilmember Bracco?
Here.
Councilmember Klein?
Here.
Councilmember Hilton?
Here.
Councilmember Marks?
Here.
Councilmember Tovar?
Here.
And Mayor Blinkley.
Here. All right, that brings us to orders of the day. We have none. Employee introductions. We have one. Police Chief Espinoza has a new employee to introduce.
Madam Mayor, members of council, and the public, I'm very happy to introduce our newest addition, Savannah Hartman, who was hired on April 10th as a public safety communicator trainee. She happens to be at the Dispatch Academy, actually, this week. Savannah grew up in Morgan Hill and attended Morgan Hill High Schools and Gavilan College. From there, she transferred to William Penn University in Iowa, where she earned 2 bachelor's degrees, one in psychology and one in human services. She worked within the mental health field as a treatment counselor at an inpatient psychiatric facility for kids. She's also worked as an emergency services specialist at a youth shelter in Iowa. When she moved back to California, she worked as a human trafficking case manager and then most recently as a resource specialist, helping create programs for individuals with developmental disabilities. She comes from a very tight-knit family. Her grandparents both lived across the street from each other, and her aunt and her family lived down the streets from them growing up, where she grew up. She has one younger sister who made her first time onto last year, and your nephew's name is Aiden. In her free time, she enjoys snowboarding during the winter and wake surfing during the summer. She grew up camping, so anything by or on the lake during the summer is her happy place. She also played college volleyball and still enjoys the game, even though her shoulders do not. She also sings in a band out of Hollister and has been singing since she was a little girl. Please help me welcome Savannah Hartman.
It's nice to meet everybody. I'm really excited to work for the city of Gilroy and to continue to serve and help the public. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. All right, under ceremonial items, we have none. Presentations to the council. Do we have any speakers wishing to speak on items not on tonight's agenda?
Yes, Madam Mayor. We have 2 speakers. First is Ron Kirkish, followed by James Pearson.
Okay, thank you. If your name was called, please come to the front row. Great, and go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, community. I have 2 issues I'd like to speak about tonight. These are issues that were in the news that I think do apply to an interest in our community. One is the designing the electricity rates for PG&E. I think I sent you all stuff, but I think that the community might not be aware that PG&E and two other of their cohorts want to realign their rate schedule so that people who are not so wealthy pay less than those who are wealthy. On top of that, they add a usage fee too. And this is a article in the California Globe. Since it's the California Globe, the headline is California going full commie, designing electricity rates for an equitable energy transition. So it's very controversial. I think you'll find that we'll be hearing more about that in the future. The second one is earlier today, the Federal Court of Appeals, U.S. Circuit Court, ruled unanimously that the city of Berkeley was breaking the law, unconstitutional, when they banned natural gas hookups for new construction. And basically, it was the restaurants that brought the suit. But when you read the paper, and I think our city attorney may or may not agree with me, but the issue is that it applies to all new construction, not just for restaurants. So in other words, those cities like Morgan Hill, San Jose, that adopted an ordinance to ban natural gas hookups for their new construction are not in compliance with the law right now. Thankfully, last year when we had this before us, we all voted, the majority voted no, so we don't have to worry about it. We're in compliance. But it's something to consider that we did good. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Madam Mayor, honored council, my name is James Pearson, and I'm here to praise a couple of your departments in the city and the staff. One is the finance department. I'm an original board member of the Library Bond Committee, and in 2019 we were getting ready to reconstitute the committee and go through the final motions and return the money to the taxpayers, and COVID hit. Didn't happen. And I called the finance department this last week, and Harjot Singh, the finance director, answered the phone and assured me that they were working on it and that we would do that this year, barring another pandemic or something else. The second is I want to praise the permitting department for adopting the Solar Plus permit system, which streamlines the permitting of rooftop solar. If that's all you're doing is putting rooftop solar on your home or building, it's a quick and easy process now. They did it in 3 days, and they were early enough adopters that they are in line for a grant they applied for to cover the costs. So, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. So moving on to reports of council members. Councilmember Bracco. Councilmember Armendariz.
No report.
Councilmember Marks.
No report.
Councilmember Hilton.
Thank you. From Silicon Valley Clean Energy, at the April Board of Directors meeting, we authorized a contract for biomass energy to help the agency meet its renewable energy and reliability requirements, as well as a contract with a hybrid natural gas peaker plant paired with battery storage to help meet the agency's regulatory procurement obligations in a cost-effective way, and voted to increase an all-electric rate discount to incentivize a shift in customers' use electricity when it is cleanest and cheapest. SVCE's primary interest from the Rio Bravo biomass project is to help meet its renewable goals, as well as providing valuable renewable assets capacity in summer months. The fuel source at the facility is renewable biomass, agricultural pruning, and urban wood. Much of the material has historically been open burned or landfilled, resulting in atmospheric pollution, waste of landfill space, and underutilization of our renewable resources. The technology used at the facility allows for a more complete and efficient burn of the biomass, thus air pollutants are dramatically reduced. The facility to operate consistently throughout the year, each hour of the day, supplying renewable energy when it is needed. Overall, it provides a complete offering of economic renewable energy capacity, and given the term of the contract, a bridge into SVCE's long-term goals of providing 100% clean energy from technologies such as solar, wind, and geothermal. From the Valley Transportation Policy Advisory Committee, this Saturday, April 22nd, in celebration of Earth Day, VTA will be offering free rides all day. The Gilroy Transit Center has 30 long-term bike parking lockers that will be changed out to modern e-lockers that don't require a key to use. I wanted to give some stats too on ridership from bus routes that have access to in Gilroy, that we have access to in Gilroy. These daily boarding numbers are from November to December of 2022. The Rapid 568 had 646 boardings. Express 121 had 40 boardings. The Frequent 68 had 3,600 boardings. Our local routes, the route number 84 had 67 boardings. Route 85 had 92 boardings. And Route 86 had 71 boardings. And lastly, my office will be at the Gilroy Transit Center on May 18th, Bike to Work Day. Please pledge ahead of time online. There's a competition right now between cities to get a sought-after bike bag, some blueberry coffee cake, hot coffee, and a chance to win a prize bag from the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition random drawings. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Klein.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to the Gilroy Garlic Festival Association. On Saturday, they had a fundraiser selling garlic bread and sold over 400 loaves at the Veterans Hall, and they also presented a check to the Veterans Hall of $5,000 for going towards their kitchen remodel. So it was a great day and just a lot of positive things happening. So.
Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things. I want to thank all the folks that were responsible and involved in last weekend. We had the cleanup efforts in downtown. I know Mr. Orth and the GDBA had a lot to do with that, and I appreciate all the great work you guys did. We cleaned up quite a bit of garbage out in downtown, and it was great to see so many people volunteering. So I want to thank everybody that was involved, the GDBA, the Rotary, and all the community members that were out there helping out. Next, I also want to thank everyone involved with the Poppy Jasper International Film Festival, which is still going on, but the mayor and I had the privilege of presenting a proclamation to a world-renowned artist by the name of Kat Dyson, who's played with many different bands. And, you know, it was a great event at Coppels, and thank you, Coppels, for treating everybody with respect. And I think everybody that walked out of there was appreciative of what a great venue you guys have, and so thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, on April 6th, I attended the VTA board meeting, and the two things I want to mention from there are resolutions of necessity continue, and that means to acquire below-ground rights to tunnel from Berryessa to Santa Clara for BART to go underground. That requires some eminent domain and some purchase of land, even though it is below ground, because it does affect what then can go above ground in those spaces. And then also the need to convert an empty warehouse in San Jose into a temporary parking garage in order to mitigate the parking impacts caused by the BART Phase 2 construction. So this is going to be a long haul, but BART Phase 2 is going to continue on to Santa Clara. We had a SCRAW board meeting on April 5th. SCRAW is our South County Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant, so it's where our sewage and wastewater is all treated south of town, the facility that we share with the city of Morgan Hill. And what I want to report there is, because we haven't had a SCRAW meeting in a long time, is an $86 million expansion that isn't actually new news, but I think we might forget that this is in the works, and it is going to increase capacity of what could be treated at that plant by 30%. So going from 8.5 million gallons per day to 11 million gallons per day. And that equates for the city of Gilroy alone to a population, to accommodating a population of about 108,000 people. So just so everybody is aware of all that. Then we had the Legislative Summit last Friday. That's where our representatives from our Congresswoman, Zoe Lofgren, to our state senator, John Laird, and down. And we all present, and it's a really nice way to see us all trying to work together. I also want to mention that I have met, and I'm going to be meeting monthly with Dr. Avila of Gavilan College and board member Rachel Perez, because we're trying to make sure that that relationship is something that we communicate better on. There are lots of things going on at Gav and with the city that we want to move towards. And as far as garlic bread goes, I had the pleasure of purchasing garlic bread and then bringing it over to the District Theater to share with the panel that was there for the film festival, and that was fun to show them our garlic bread. And lastly, because I have to be here and I cannot be in Boston, my son ran the Boston Marathon this morning, and so I have to tell everyone, 2 hours, 38 minutes. He's 26 years old. Very proud of him. Thanks. Okay, on to item 5, council correspondence. I think we all saw in our packets 5.1. Item 6, future council-initiated items. I'm looking down. Okay, item 7 is the consent calendar. Anything to pull? Then I'll go to public comment. Any public comment on consent?
There's no public comment.
Move for approval.
Okay, have a motion to approve the consent calendar by Councilmember Tovar. I'll second it. Okay. Do we have a motion and a second for the consent calendar?
I'll second.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. If it's okay for me to second, that can hold. Otherwise, Councilmember
okay.
Marks
It
seconded.
doesn't matter.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Yep, roll call vote.
All right. Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Hilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
And Mayor Blankley?
Yes. All right. That passed unanimously. Under bids and proposals, we have none. Under public hearings, 9.1. Public hearing to establish a list of properties subject to the weed abatement program and adoption of a resolution authorizing the fire chief to abate the nuisance arising out of weeds growing and refuse accumulating upon property in the city of Gilroy pursuant to section 12.51 of the Gilroy Code. Chief Wyatt, give us the report.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor and Honorable Council. Tonight's agenda covers the second step of the annual weed abatement program. Previously on February 23rd of this year, Council adopted Resolution 2023-08 declaring weeds and refuse as a public nuisance. Along with that agenda item were the list of properties with a history of noncompliance for weed abatement. The annual weed abatement process complies with both the city code and the state health and safety code, which require, prior to authorizing the abatement of a lot, the city hold a public hearing of the subject properties. This meeting not only authorizes the fire chief to abate nuisances such as the weeds and refuse, but also allows property owners to request that their property be removed from the list. All subject property owners identified on the commencement list received a public hearing notice, weed abatement instructions, and information on the fee and costs. Property owners were also informed that the weed abatement deadline is May 15th of this year. Any property owners which are present at tonight's meeting may request to have their property removed from the list by providing an explanation for why the property should be removed. The request will be taken under consideration by the Gilroy Fire Department, the Santa Clara Weed Abatement Program, and the City Council. If anyone is present, then please request to speak at this time. If there are no questions, we have Deputy Fire Marshal Jonathan Crick and Weed Abatement Program Manager Mo Cumry available. And last but not least, there you are. Any additional comments?
Cut the weeds.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, so any questions of council? Yes, Councilmember Armendariz.
Chief, is there a process outside of this meeting or after this hearing for someone to request to be removed?
For what to be removed?
For a property owner to request themselves removed from the list. Is there a process outside of this?
They can contact the. Oh, there you go.
If you're speaking, please use the microphone.
Yes, my name is Mo Cumry. I'm the manager of the Weed Abatement Program for Santa Clara County. We, throughout the season and throughout the year, take calls and emails from property owners who wish to be removed from the program or have concerns, and allow them to give us that information. If there's grounds for removal, we will remove them.
And does the county send someone out to inspect to make sure that they have cut their weeds?
we will inspect all the properties that remain on the list after the May 15th deadline to verify that they've been abated. And we will inspect again later in the season to ensure that they remain abated until the end of October.
Great. And if there is a senior or someone with a physical handicap that can't abate their own weeds, is there assistance or a program that could assist them?
We don't have a program, but the Santa Clara County Fire Safe Council has a program in which they can help those who are unable to afford or physically to perform the abatement.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, seeing no other questions of council members, I'd like to open the public hearing at 6:20 p.m. and ask if we have any speakers.
We don't have any speakers, Madam Mayor.
Okay, then closing the public hearing at 6:20 p.m. and coming back to council for possible action.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Motion moved by Councilmember Bracco and seconded by Councilmember Armendariz to approve a resolution to authorize the fire chief to abate the nuisance. Okay.
Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Hilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
And Mayor Blinkley.
Yes, and that passes unanimously. Moving on to item 10, unfinished business, approval of the Santa Teresa Interim Fire Station alternate location at Christmas Hill Park. Chief Wyatt again.
Yes, I'm back again, but proud to be here. Okay, so approval of the alternate location, the Santa Teresa Interim Fire Station. Recommendation is to approve an alternate location of the Santa Teresa Interim Fire Station located at the ranch side, or on the ranch side, of Christmas Hill Park in the Santa Teresa Fire Response District. Our current site that we had council approve back on July 5th of last year is the 10th Street and Deanza Place site. However, we found that there were disadvantages, and I'll go through those rather quickly. There's no utilities readily available, and the wait time, in spite of numerous requests through to PG&E, still would be extensive. Construction delays could extend into the summer of next year, 2024. And also, there would be still, even at the location that we selected, longer response times into the city's districts, other cities' fire districts. Let me go through the advantages of the proposed site or alternative site. The utilities are readily available. It looks familiar to you because it's right next to the teak, but there's no need for PG&E, thus no wait time. Can be operational this year. There's better response times into the Grassland, Hecker Pass, West Glen Loma, and Eagle Ridge neighborhoods because of its proximity. Improved response times into other city districts. We know this based on our times that we've responded into the center core of the city, and more often than not, we've actually beat some of the other units that are first due. Once fully funded, no additional, well, it's actually fully funded, no additional or added costs to the move. Costs previously approved were $200,000 for the modular building, $240,000 for the site work, $104,000 for the station alert system and install, for a total of $549,000. Again, this was all previously approved by council, and no additional costs will be incurred by the switch. Projected construction timeline and public outreach. We're looking at the modular trailer. Right now, the contract is going through the process, and they're going to be beginning the build of it within the next 2 or 3 weeks. That means that the trailer will be ready in about 2 months. Site improvement, once approved, we can start moving ahead now that the rainy season has stopped, and we anticipate that will be about a 2 to 3 month time to develop it. And then project move-in, we're looking at October of this year. Public outreach, we're looking at 2 weeks prior to the construction activities to include letters to the neighbors just literally right next door to where the property is located. Notification of Gilroy Unified School District, since it does affect them, and their pickup of some of the children on that near the station site, and then of course messaging on the city website, Express, Email Express, Nextdoor, and social media. In summary, the current 10th Street De Anza site is delayed until next summer of 2024. The alternative site at Christmas Hill already has utility infrastructure, no need for PG&E, and I emphasize that. Alternative site is fully funded, no additional or added costs by switching sites. The alternative site will provide quicker response time into several Santa Teresa Fire District neighborhoods and adjacent city districts. And then the alternative site would be operational by October of 2023. And at this point, any questions?
Thank you, Chief. All right, council members, any questions? Councilmember Bracco.
I have a question for Jimmy. If we were to get the grant for the bridge, would it have any effect on this?
It wouldn't have any effect if we go ahead and get council approval to move the temporary station over to Christmas Hill Park. And it also would create a little bit of a problem for us if we did get the grant, because we knew that we were going to have to move the station anyway. This eliminates all those issues. It's a property we own. It's a property we have electricity to. No problem with the bridge. In the end, it's a better solution for us.
And we're not going to move the station until the new station is built, correct?
Yeah, this is the permanent temporary station.
Thank you.
You think you're confused. All right, Councilmember Marks.
Yes, Chief. How many firefighters do we have to hire to complete this station, to get it up to full capacity?
So that's actually a great question. I'm excited to tell you that we're almost there. We have hired a total of 36 firefighters, so we needed 2 additional ones. We just got through 2 weeks ago with interview process, and we have 4 on the list. So with that, my hope is that in a very short time, we're going to have 38 firefighters to staff the Santa Teresa station.
Perfect.
Well,
so then,
not just the Santa Teresa station.
So then when the modular unit is up and running and it has electrical, everyone moves in and we're up and running, fully staffed, correct?
We will be, assuming that everyone remains healthy, yes,
Right.
we'll be fully staffed.
All right, great. Thank you.
Councilmember Hilton.
Chief, so when you say fully staffed, you mean it's not going to be the Type 6 anymore? It's going to be a Type 1 fire engine with 3 personnel on it 24 hours a day?
Right. So let me say how we fully staff. So as we train our firefighters, we still have 4 in training right now. They won't become available until one will become available in July. The other 3 will become available in September of this year. So with those people coming in and the workforce remaining healthy, we should be moving towards 2.0 staffing of the Santa Teresa within probably the next 30 days. Not all 3 shifts, though. We're not quite there yet. And so we're looking at incrementally bringing up 3.0 staffing as we get the firefighters coming in. But again, I have to emphasize that's assuming that the current workforce remains healthy and that we don't lose anybody else to retirements. I am losing 2 division chiefs. They don't work on the engines, so that they won't affect that. But it doesn't mean that there couldn't be promotions internally that would still cause us to not quite meet our 38 full number in order to staff it. So I'm couching that with what could happen and what we are working towards making it happen.
So the 2.0 staffing will still be on the response rig that they're using today?
Correct.
It won't be a fire engine.
It won't be a full fire engine not till probably, I'll just say this. I'm already looking at least one shift being able to provide trio staffing, but that, again, won't happen for another 30 days. And then it will probably be around September, October before we get trio staffing.
Okay. And my last question, I saw in your staff report that you were able to get those speed bumps removed. So
yes.
I know that's going to speed your time up. Are you still able to access out the back?
Yes.
Okay. In that, as in, there's no like gates there that impede your process or anything because you're using those trails.
No, you're referring to the bike trail that actually is also a emergency response for us. We've got in the plans to widen it with gravel so that it could handle the weight of a Type 1. That way, if we have pedestrians who are walking along there, we can pull over to the side and safely get past them.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no other council member questions, I'm going to go to public comment.
We have no public comment.
Okay. Closing public comment.
Mayor?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion for approval of the Santa Teresa Fire Station alternate location at Christmas Hill Park.
All right.
Second.
Okay. Motion made by Councilmember Tovar and seconded by Councilmember Marks to approve.
Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Hilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
And Mayor Blinkley?
Yes, that passed unanimously. All right, moving on to new business. 11.1, authorize the city administrator to enter into a sole source purchasing agreement with Landco Industries for the replacement of a public safety rescue vehicle for $360,497. Chief Pedro Espinoza will give us this report.
Madam Mayor, Captain Luke Powell, our field operations commander, will be presenting on behalf of the police department.
Very good.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. I'm here tonight to request authorization to replace our shared public safety rescue vehicle. A public safety rescue vehicle is a vehicle with ballistic protection that provides an environment that minimizes officers' exposure to additional risk while responding to critical incidents and performing other hazardous duties, such as rescuing victims during acts of violence like active shooter or hostage situations, transporting fire and medical personnel into active crime scenes to render medical aid, allowing officers to maintain proximity in high-risk situations and afford additional protection, to safely make visual observations, attempt de-escalation, and conduct crisis negotiation during incidents involving armed, barricaded subjects. And lastly, to safely deliver equipment and supplies and other needed resources during high-risk operations. Let me begin with a brief history of how and when we acquired our current public safety rescue vehicle. In 2007, the Gilroy Police Department submitted a grant application through FEMA and Homeland Security for the funding to purchase a rescue vehicle from Lenco Armored Vehicles in the amount of $250,000. The following year, in 2008, the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office submitted a grant application through the Urban Areas Security Initiative, or UWASI, for a chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and high-yield explosive, or CBRNE, rescue vehicle from Lenco Armored Vehicles in the amount of $310,000. In 2010, UWASI agreed to combine the two grant applications and fund the Sheriff's Office grant with the following stipulations. The rescue vehicle would be a mutual aid resource shared by the Sheriff's Office, Morgan Hill Police Department, and the Gilroy Police Department. The rescue vehicle would be stored in South Santa Clara County to reduce response times of this vital life-saving piece of equipment. At the time, all three agencies agreed to these stipulations and settled to store the rescue vehicle at Gilroy Police Department. And the Sheriff's Office would be the grant manager, ensuring compliance with the grant requirements. Gilroy PD was selected as the primary storage facility because it was located in South Santa Clara County. The rescue vehicle could be stored indoors, and Gilroy PD was staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, making access quicker, resulting in reduced response times. The City of Gilroy also agreed to provide preventative maintenance on the rescue vehicle. In 2011, the Sheriff's Office, Morgan Hill Police Department, and Gilroy PD took possession of the shared rescue vehicle. For 10 years, this rescue vehicle was stored at Gilroy PD, and the City of Gilroy Fleet Department performed its regular maintenance. In September 2021, Governor Newsom signed Assembly Bill 481, which required law enforcement agencies to adopt a military equipment use policy. Assembly Bill 481 mandated more stringent control over the use of military equipment, such as the grant-funded shared rescue vehicle. Because the Sheriff's Office was the grant manager for the rescue vehicle, they used Assembly Bill 481 to justify permanently relocating the rescue vehicle out of Gilroy and out of South Santa Clara County. Over the preceding months, the Sheriff's Office staff established a strict checkout procedure before any other agency could use the rescue vehicle. I've detailed this checkout procedure in your staff report, but will simply state tonight that the checkout process can take anywhere from 1 to 3 hours, depending on the responsiveness of their administration, the availability of the rescue vehicle, their employees' availability to meet us at the storage facility, traffic conditions to and from San Jose. Although I understand the Sheriff's Office need to implement such a process, it delays and prolongs our ability to form a tactical response. This process is a drain on our resources. It reduces the time our officers are on the streets, increases our overtime expense, and increases the response time of a necessary piece of vital equipment to all of South Santa Clara County. On average, we utilize the shared rescue vehicle for 12 real-world deployments and 24 days of training annually. In addition to the lengthy checkout process, the Sheriff's Office has suspended the use of the rescue vehicle at community and public engagement events like Coffee with a Cop, Ice Cream with a Cop, National Night Out, job fairs, and school and retirement facility demonstrations. We understand these events are not critical, but they are excellent opportunities for community members to engage our officers and ask them questions about their job and garner a better understanding of what equipment we have and how it is used in our community. In your staff report, I have detailed 8 incidents within the past 2 years when deployment of the rescue vehicle was critically needed but unavailable. The use of the rescue vehicle during these incidents would have minimized our officers' and community's exposure to additional risk, afforded secure close proximity tactical observations, increased time to formulate de-escalation plans, and a safe mobile platform to apprehend armed suspects. I will not detail those events again tonight, but since completing the staff report, there have been 2 additional incidents that again stress the critical need for a rescue vehicle here in Gilroy and dedicated to South Santa Clara County. In the first event, a longtime Gilroy resident living just outside the city limits shot at sheriff's deputies from inside his residence. The Sheriff's Office deployed the rescue vehicle we share with them and requested assistance from additional agencies with rescue vehicles. Because no other South County agency has their own rescue vehicle, rescue vehicles were sent from San Jose and Campbell. Due to the distance these vehicles had to come from, it took over 2 hours before a secure inner perimeter was established. All the while, the suspect continued to fire a gun out of the residence. Attempts to negotiate with the suspect and de-escalate the situation went on for hours, and 2 of the rescue vehicles were struck multiple times by bullets fired by the suspect. Luckily, the rescue vehicle performed its intended purpose, and no officers were injured. No officers inside the rescue vehicle were injured. It is important to note that because the officers were secured in a rescue vehicle with ballistic protection, their lives were not in imminent danger. They did not feel like they had to return fire to preserve their lives. The outcome may have been drastically different if the rescue vehicles were not available for this event. The second event happened earlier this month and involved a subject who was wanted for attempted murder. Gilroy PD detectives located the wanted individual at a residence in Gilroy, and the use of the shared rescue vehicles was requested from the sheriff's office. It took 5 hours to get a response from the sheriff's office, an additional hour before the rescue vehicle was in Gilroy. Once the rescue vehicle was in Gilroy, the attempted murder suspect was taken into custody within 30 minutes. This incident is a classic example of how a rescue vehicle's delay is a drain on Gilroy's resources. An incident that could have resolved in 30 minutes took over 6 hours and tied up public safety resources and diminished our ability to serve our community in an efficient manner. Currently, the Gilroy Police Department shares a 12-year-old rescue vehicle with the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office and the Morgan Hill Police Department. I've tried to express this vital resources availability is becoming increasingly limited, and its use is restricted by the grant it was funded by and the Sheriff's Office staff. Today, I'm requesting authorization to replace our grant-funded shared rescue vehicle with one that would be owned and maintained by the City of Gilroy and stored at the Gilroy Police Department. This would afford the City of Gilroy to impose our own restrictions on this vehicle's usage and still be a resource for other South Santa Clara County agencies like Gilroy Fire Department and the Morgan Hill Police Department. Our goal is to keep our officers safe and conclude critical incidents or acts of violence with the least amount of force necessary. A Gilroy-owned rescue vehicle would improve our chances of attaining that goal. Currently, the Gilroy Police Department and the Morgan Hill Police Department share and maintain a mobile command vehicle, or MCV, which Morgan Hill acquired through a grant. Gilroy PD and the Morgan Hill Police Department maintain an excellent working relationship, and we have not had any conflict with sharing this resource. We are still exploring the possibility of the rescue vehicle of being a shared resource, but I do not foresee this being a conflict between these two agencies. The Linco Bearcat is a rescue vehicle specifically designed for public safety with ballistic protection to enhance officer and citizen safety during high-risk search warrants, hostage situations, armed barricaded subjects, active shooter incidents, and other dangerous critical incidents. The Linco Bearcat is the same brand of armored rescue vehicle currently utilized by the Gilroy Police Department in all surrounding municipalities and agencies. The standardization of rescue vehicles in our county allows for additional personnel from neighboring law enforcement agencies to have the necessary knowledge of the rescue vehicle's operation and capabilities. Purchasing the same rescue vehicle brand eliminates the need for additional training and the associated costs of maintaining a different type of vehicle. The Linco Bearcat is based on a Ford F-550 Super Duty chassis and is the only rescue vehicle on the market with a 131-inch wheelbase, thus allowing a compact vehicle to have a tighter turning radius. The smaller turning radius allows the user to navigate city streets and traffic with greater maneuverability. We have optioned the new Linco Bearcat to come with the following features: a V8 turbo diesel engine, four-wheel drive, bench seating for 12, run-flat tires, 7-inch vertical gun ports, backup camera, hydraulic ram, gas injector unit, roof-mounted spotlight, recovery rope, armored oil pan, ballistic skip round shield, two-way intercom system, and internal trauma lighting. Gilroy PD is committed to using the best practices and contemporary law enforcement equipment to enhance our ability to provide the highest level of public safety to our community. Rescue vehicles have been and continue to be employed by the Gilroy Police Department and law enforcement agencies across the country to enhance the safety of the community and public safety members. These vital pieces of equipment provide peace officers with the ability to safely de-escalate and resolve volatile situations and critical incidents that could potentially become lethal force encounters. Our current policies provide our officers with guidelines for using and maintaining a rescue vehicle, and the Linco Bearcat is already listed in our annual equipment inventory report to City Council. Replacement of our rescue vehicle is critical to Gilroy PD's mission and will continue to be strictly regulated through internal processes and oversight. Gilroy PD's Policy 708 is our equipment use policy and outlines each item identified in Government Code Section 770 that the city currently owns. Policy 708 includes the specifics of each item, its intended use, and its cost. Policy 708 protects the public's welfare, safety, civil rights, and civil liabilities. Policy 708 ensures safeguards, including transparency, oversight, and accountability measures. Staff researched and evaluated potential rescue vehicle options and found all rescue vehicles currently used by law enforcement agencies in Santa Clara County are the Linco Bearcat. Staff is familiar with and has 12 years of experience in training with the Linco Bearcat. If all agencies in the county continue to use the Linco Bearcat, this would allow them for more seamless cross-training between agencies and safer deployments as personnel are familiar with the operation of this vehicle platform. It is staff's belief that there is no reasonable alternative to the Linco Bearcat. Staff has not discovered alternate products that can achieve the same objectives or safety. The recommended replacement or purchase price of this vehicle is in the amount not exceeding $360,497.18. Will be made from the police department's federal asset seizure funds in the amount of $150,000 and fiscal year 2022-23 salary savings in the amount of $210,497.18. Sufficient funds exist in the department's federal asset seizure fund and the operational budget to support the recommended purchase. City Purchasing Policy 4.8 purchases exempt from competitive bidding provides that competitive bidding shall not apply to single or sole source goods or services. The Linco Bearcat is the sole source provider of the Linco Bearcat. Additionally, General Services Administration, or GSA, is the federal government's purchasing agent, connecting federal purchasers with the most cost-effective and highest quality commercial products and services. GSA Advantage sources different government contracts that are not competitively bid, but have substantial cost savings. GSA Advantage enables cities to save 5% on the purchase of the Linco Bearcat compared to the open market price. I know that took a while.
Yeah.
Sorry. At this time, I'd like to field any questions regarding the replacement of the public safety rescue vehicle.
Thank you, Cap. Thank you for that report. Thank you for the detail in the staff report. Because this piece of equipment was taken from us by because of AB 481, I remember it coming before this council where we had to address that and any equipment and what our policy is for any equipment to which AB 481 applied. So can you tell us a little bit before I get into questions from the council whether or not we already, what is our policy? Does the City of Gilroy have a policy that we can, that's already in place that addresses what we need to address because of AB 481 so that we can have this piece of equipment?
Yes. So last year, May of 2022, I provided you, the council, with the military equipment use policy, which we adopted last year. And then every year in May, I will have to come back to you and provide you an update on that. So anytime we get new equipment, the cost of that equipment and what it will be used for will be reported to you every year going forward.
Okay.
Last year's report included the Bearcat that we share with the Sheriff's Department, and that will be consistent this year, but going forward in May of 2024, if you approve this purchase, the new Bearcat will appear on that annual.
Okay, so we have a policy as to when we would and would not use such a piece of equipment.
Yes, we do.
Perfect. Okay, Councilmember Hilton.
Thank you. Captain, it's okay that you take that long because you always do a good job on closing the loop there. I mean, you lay it out. It's very convincing. As a firefighter, it's always frustrating to have a piece of equipment that you know that works, but you can't get it in time, or it's not yours. You don't have enough money or whatever to get it. So good job on that. My one question is, and I think you briefly talked about it, but is there a specific standard operating procedure just for the Bearcat that will be in place? Because I see other cities do that, and you even mentioned that too, that other cities have best practices and stuff, and maybe even up to including if you want to go to a public event or those type of non-emergency settings, that the chief would be the one to say whether that's okay or not.
Yes. So chief would have ultimate decision on when it would be used and when it could not be used. But the use of the Bearcat is also covered under our use of force policy, and then our vehicle and equipment use policy, and the military equipment use policy. So we have 3 different policies that restrict us on when we can and cannot use the Bearcat.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor and Captain. Yeah, great job. I mean, I always enjoy your presentations because you're very detailed, and I appreciate this. Even though some people may see the cost as being extremely high, but I appreciate this because you're putting public safety as a priority. So I appreciate that, and I'll be supporting this. Just a question I have in regards to sort of looking at the usage of this vehicle. What do you anticipate will be the lifespan of the vehicle?
So it's going to be, our current one we have is 12 years old.
Okay.
And it's now starting to show its wear, but it's not done. So if we were to continue to share the cost of maintaining the current Bearcat, it needs new windows. The windows, because they're ballistic resistant, have lamination layers. They're starting to delaminate. You can't see through the windows anymore, so those would need to be replaced. Okay. But we're looking at a minimum of 12 years with this vehicle. And we will be keeping it indoors, so it's going to extend the life even longer. Diesel engine is going to be more reliable and last longer than a gas engine as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Armendariz.
Thank you. What would happen to our access to the previous vehicle? Will we still be in contract with, as part of the grant with the other 2 agencies?
Definitely. Good question. It would still be available to us because with the grant, the way the grant was written, it's still available to the 3 agencies that were written into the grant.
Through what year?
The 3 agencies that were written into the grant.
No, I'm sorry. Through what year?
Oh, for the life of the vehicle.
For the life of the vehicle.
I didn't understand that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Bracco.
Since we got a grant with the county and Morgan Hill for the Bearcat, the shared one, can we get some money from the county for taking it away from us?
To my knowledge, no. So it was a grant funded through the state. The recipient of the grant was the county. When it arrived, there was a gentleman's agreement between the 3 agencies. So it was signed with a handshake, and there was no written agreement documenting how this would actually play out. So as far as us getting money for another Bearcat through the county, I do not see that happening.
Okay. Thank you.
Nice thought, though. Yeah. Okay. I'd like to go to public comment if we have any speakers.
Yes, Madam Mayor. We have one, Ron Kirkish.
Hello, good Mayor, Council, and thank you, Chief Espinoza and Captain. From the story that the Captain told us alone, this is $360,000 well spent. In a previous engagement, the officers were able to shelter themselves in the vehicle and save their lives. But not only that, but they didn't have to take the life of the person who was probably going through a mental breakdown. So to me, it's a no-brainer. This is $360,000 that I think we should seriously consider spending for the safety of our officers and the safety of our community, even those who are perpetrating the crime. Thank you.
Thank you. No other public speakers?
None at this time.
All right. Closing public comment. And Britt, go ahead.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the city to enter into a purchasing agreement for the replacement of a safety rescue vehicle for $360,497.
Thank you. And can we do this in one motion and adopt the resolution? Would you like to do that too? Put both and adopt the resolution in one motion? Okay.
Thank you.
So, all right, made by Councilmember Tovar, seconded by Councilmember Bracco.
Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Hilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
And Mayor Blinkley.
Yes, that passed unanimously. Okay, moving on to 11.2. Receive report and provide direction on mobile vending and sidewalk vending rules and requirements. And Sharon Goey, or maybe not, John Biggs, is going to give this report.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor and members of City Council. John Biggs with the Community Development Department, providing a little bit of assistance to the staff members in Community Development. We have for you this evening some information regarding sidewalk vending and mobile vending, our existing rules and regulations that we have in the current Gilroy Municipal Code, and some state legislation that has been adopted in the last few years. Currently, we have Chapter 16A, which covers mobile vending. Mobile vending is a very broad topic, and it covers everything from vendors on sidewalks to public streets to public parks, plus vendors on private property. The state legislation, SB 946, has changed the rules for sidewalk vendors. And I'll use the term sidewalk vendors very specifically because it refers to a very specific category of mobile vendors. Those are vendors, sidewalk vendors are vendors that operate from or sell goods and foods from sidewalks, public paths, public parkways, and only in those locations where mobile vendors provide services to all other locations throughout the city. In addition to SB 946, which decriminalized, I just lost my, there we go, which decriminalized sidewalk vending, the state also adopted SB 972, which is really the attempt to address health concerns and health permitting requirements for sidewalk vendors. There were some very onerous requirements in terms of health permitting from the county health requirements of the various counties in California. And SB 72 is supposed to make for a smoother process, an easier process for sidewalk vendors to get their health permits. Given SB 946, there are quite a few things that a city can do, but there's also quite a few things that a city cannot do. One thing that the city can do is limit the hours of operation. However, those hours of operation limitations only apply and cannot be more restrictive than the operations or the business hours for other like businesses within an area where mobile vendors or sidewalk vendors can operate. The city
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry. It's hard to hear. If you could repeat that last
Oh, sure.
point.
Get a little closer to the microphone here.
Thank
you. The city can limit the hours of operation, but it can't limit them any more restrictive than the hours of operation for other businesses that are operating within the city or in a given area. We can prohibit sidewalk vendors in residential neighborhoods, except for mobile vendors. The prohibition on the residential neighborhoods is just for stationary sidewalk vendors. A mobile vendor, someone who has a cart and is going through the neighborhoods, can still operate within the residential zone districts. Sidewalk vending can be prohibited near farmers markets, swap meets, and permitted special events to limit competition between those types of events and sidewalk vendors. And the city can apply a distance between these types of events and where sidewalk vendors can operate. They can be required that sanitary standards be met, and that's part of the health permitting process. They can also require compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the city, per SB 946, can require that a sidewalk vendor get a permit or a license to operate within the city. What a city cannot do.
Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah, before we jump into this, can we go back to the other slide? I just have two questions. So it says when we look at, is that the first slide?
Yeah, I think he means what you can do.
Yeah, what we can.
I'm trying to
Oh, can't get there?
get this thing to
okay.
go back.
Thank you, Ty.
Slide number. Yeah, no, okay,
So,
go ahead.
when you say what the city can do, prohibit sidewalk vending near farmers markets, swap meets, and permitted special events, does this not include, say, nearby restaurants and other sort of?
It does not include those types of business activities, no.
Okay, and then you say require that sanitary standards be met. What exactly does that mean? Because
That's something that the city, or not the city, but the County of Santa Clara's Health Department is currently working on. SB 972 only became effective at the beginning of this calendar year. And so the county right now is working at developing a set of standards that they will say, here is what you need to comply in order to get a health permit. They have mentioned things in discussions with us, things such as making sure that waste is collected within a receptacle that can be deposited elsewhere. Greases and fats are collected so that they don't get left behind on public property or public streets. That there be wash sinks available if there is food cooking or food preparation available. We're not 100% certain at this stage what their requirements are going to be, but we're going to be working closely with them, and we'll probably have more information to share with you if we bring back a code for the council to consider.
Yeah, because I asked that question because obviously, me personally, I'm trying to see how we can make this all work, but unless we're enforcing this and we're hiring somebody or additional, staff members to go out there and make sure this happens, then we really don't. We can't enforce it, right? I mean,
enforcement is a really curious dynamic to sidewalk vending. I think there would be an enforcement effort on the part of the city, plus an enforcement effort on the part of the county of Santa Clara.
Okay, thank you.
John, I have a question. Go back.
Just one second. I just want to ask John, are you okay not finishing your report and having council members ask questions, or are you okay with it?
I'm comfortable with having
Fine.
council members
All right.
ask
Okay.
questions.
It's on the same slide that you were just on.
Okay, Councilmember Marks.
Go back to limit hours of operation. Did I understand you correctly when you said we could not limit the number of hours that might be shorter than another business operating by? So like if Tempo stays open until 2, then the vendors would get to stay open until 2, correct?
That's my understanding.
Even though they might be blocks away from Tempo?
Even though they could be blocks away from Tempo. I think it looks at the business operations within the city globally and takes a look at what hours do food service organizations or businesses provide for their customers, and it would take a look at that and kind of use that as sort of the gauge that anyone if they wanted to ask a question or challenge our regulations would.
All right, thank you. That just clarifies it, because I was a little confused when you said that. Okay, thank you.
It mentions residential.
Just a minute. Okay.
Oh, sorry, ma'am.
It's okay. Do you have a question?
I do.
Okay, I do too. So go ahead.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
It mentions residential districts and then also a special commercial district, right? If later on in the presentation, if there was a special commercial zone, for example, a downtown commercial zone, where we set the policy for the entire zone, is that allowable, or is that can we make rules like that?
I guess it would be allowable. The difficulty is any rule or requirement that we place on mobile vendors needs to protect the public's health, life, and safety. So if we're not able to make that connection or nexus between that requirement, limiting it to, or limiting it from a certain specific zone district, then we would want to make sure that, whatever zone district we said these are not appropriate in, we'd have to make that health and safety link in there.
There was a third criteria, health?
Health, life, and safety.
Life and safety.
Public's health, life, and safety.
May I?
Yes.
Just to amplify in that answer, I think it would be difficult to set up a commercial zone that would regulate these sidewalk vendors. It's not specifically allowed in the state law, and it would be difficult to justify based on those factors. And the law is very clear. We can't base it on economic factors or how people feel about the vendors either. That's extremely clear in the state statute.
Okay, my question has to do with permit or license, because I thought it would be and.
It could be And I guess it should be more appropriately and/or.
Okay.
You could require a permit for the mobile vendors, but then still require that they obtain a business license.
Right. So, like for me, my business, I have to have a business license. I pay a fee. It has to be renewed annually. I don't have a permit, though. What does the permit do that the license doesn't?
The business license is actually a tax on the business to generate revenue for the city and regulate the businesses. The permit is really a permit that regulates the type of use or activity. So if we were to go towards a permit program for sidewalk vendors, that would list the conditions and the restrictions that are placed on the sidewalk
Perfect.
vendors
That
and
would
make sure that they're complying with those.
Yes, since that would be the way that we would know okay. Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, and go back to my question because sort of thinking this through, obviously, I'm looking for a way to help protect our vendors, but also protect the community, but also just as important as both of those are local businesses who I, and I'm sure many of us have spoken to protect their businesses and help them thrive. When we look at what the city can do and sort of what we have listed in there, and it sort of goes in line with what Councilmember Amadera has mentioned, are we able to add to that, or is this sort of how it's set in stone? Again, I'm talking specifically.
I think when we're talking about adding to it, in the agenda report, we provided a number of potential conditions that we could apply to the permitting requirements for a sidewalk vendor. And I think when we get to that portion of the discussion, we can discuss whether or not that list is appropriate or if there's other things you'd like to have us go back and explore in a little more detail.
Okay, now Councilmember Hilton also has a
clarifying question about the enforcement part of it. So correct me if I'm wrong, but code enforcement within the city is based on complaints, right? We don't actively have code enforcement walking around looking for violations. So to actually have to hire somebody or to go regulate an entire district, that's not what we do anyways. We're complaint driven. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's complaint driven unless someone sees a very clear safety violation, and then there would be an opportunity for take immediate action against that.
Thank you.
Okay, please continue. Remember, I asked you. Okay. Okay.
All right. So this is a list of things that a city cannot do. This is reflected again in the agenda report that we provided to the council. You can't require that they operate within a specific area. You can't say sidewalk vendors are only limited to our C1 zone district, for example. We can't require that they get permission from a neighboring business or entity, a restaurant. I think it goes to your questions earlier, Councilmember Tovar. We can't prevent them from operating in public parks unless we have some type of concession agreement with another entity that has restrictive rights to use that park. We can't restrict the number of sidewalk vendors unless, again, it is necessary to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. As I mentioned a little bit ago in your...
I'm sorry, we're going to give you a different mic because it's hard to hear.
You're not that tall.
All right, mic'd up and ready to go?
Oh, that's much
Is that better?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Wow. Sorry we didn't do that from the beginning.
That's all right.
Okay.
As I mentioned earlier, with the agenda report that we provided to the City Council does have a number of conditions or requirements that can be applied to sidewalk vendors. I'm not going to go through that list right now. Just know that if you've taken a look at it, you can let us know whether you think a condition or a requirement is appropriate, needs some modifications, or if there are other things that should be added to that list. And these would all be incorporated into an ordinance or resolution that we bring back to Council for consideration. We do need to amend our Chapter 16A, which is the mobile vendor regulations, just because we need to make sure there's a distinction between sidewalk vendors and mobile vendors. There are, I think, sections of Chapter 16A that are pretty broad and encompass what we would classify now as sidewalk vendors. And as we talked about a little bit ago, enforcement would need to be on a multi-level approach. We'll need to work closely with our police department along with our code enforcement staff. Given the range of times and locations that sidewalk vendors can operate, I think a kind of a joint enforcement effort would be most appropriate. And we can, based on your feedback, take a look at those and develop some more information to bring back to you to consider. Any questions?
Question here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
You want to go first? Go ahead. Okay, so Councilmember Armendariz, then Councilmember Marks, then Councilmember Tovar.
Does this include mobile food trucks, or is this limited to standing and mobile as described in the language?
That's a very good question. The rules that we bring back for sidewalk vendors would only apply to sidewalk vendors, those that are walking or have a mobile or stationary cart on the sidewalk, a public path, or in public parks. These rules will not apply to mobile vendors. Our current mobile vending regulations, excuse me, do currently address mobile vending and the need for permitting and requirements for those mobile vendors.
So they're actively mobile vendors, like the folks who sell paletas or ice cream, right, and the little carts, not folks who are stationary.
Well, the sidewalk vendors would cover both mobile and stationary vendors, and cover those that sell goods or food products.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilmember Marks.
I know. I think I'm getting more and more confused as you're talking about both mobile and the permanent vendors. When we see them in the residential areas and some of their carts have wheels, is that a permanent one or is that a mobile one?
I would consider that to be a mobile vendor, which would be permitted.
Even though they're there all day long?
In the same place.
In the same place, yes.
You know, I think because the cart is on wheels and can be easily moved, I would still consider that as a mobile vendor. You could give us direction to come up with some time limitations on how long a person with a cart could be in any one location, and we can bring that back in a set of rules and regulations for you.
All right, thank you.
All right, and then it's Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor. So, again, just sort of looking this through. So, I did some homework on this because obviously I'm trying to see what we currently have in place here in Gilroy, which is not much. I mean, but calling other cities just to sort of see their take on this, and I think I called 15 different cities, and I think about 13 of them said that they would not allow this, right? And sort of how we currently do things here, they said that obviously that they have process procedures and all that stuff, and which they enforce, but we don't here. So do you know, I mean, again, I don't know if you know this answer, but do you know of other cities that are in line with what we currently have and are allowing sort of?
There are a number of cities like Gilroy that are currently going through a process of developing rules for sidewalk vending. Some of the cities have adopted those rules already. In fact, the conditions that you see in the agenda report were kind of a gleaning of some rules that have been applied in other cities. But the state has really taken away the city's ability to prohibit sidewalk vendors. And it's also decriminalized sidewalk vending. The types of penalties that a city could apply to someone for violating the sidewalk vending rules or not having a sidewalk vending permit are very different than the fines and the types of penalties that can be applied for other violations.
I have another question.
All right, Councilmember Marks.
Since we cannot prohibit sidewalk vending, what happens if there's a vendor who, when he leaves, there's garbage up and down the street, there's grease on the sidewalk? Could that be prohibited? Because I think that's where a lot of our businesses are very upset because of the mess that's left in front of their businesses.
Yeah, I think that goes directly to health and safety concerns. And in the list of conditions, we do have requirements at least in that draft, requirements that they are required to maintain appropriate and clean environment when they are, for cleaning up both after they've been there and during their duration in a single place, if they're a stationary vendor.
So if someone totally ignores it after being warned, after a couple of times, can that particular vendor be banned?
They can't be banned outright to begin with. There's an escalation of permit fines that get applied. First is $100, and it's an administrative fine. Then it goes to $250, and then it goes up to $500. And if they continue to violate the requirements or the conditions of their permit approval, then the city can revoke their permit, and operating without a permit has a different layer of enforcement and fines.
And if they don't pay
tied to
their
it.
fine, can they still be vending the following week, or is there something in place? Because, I mean, if nothing happens, then what's the point? You know,
Right.
they're just going to keep doing it because they know nothing happens.
Well,
So
we would hope that they would, with the first fine, bring their violations into line with the requirements of approval. But as you're aware, there are times that folks need another nudge, and I think that our experience in code enforcement, at least my experience in code enforcement over the years, is it's typically that one time that reach out, you tell them what they're doing wrong, and they correct it. If there are continuing violations, we have the ability to revoke the permit and then pursue a different potential enforcement avenue.
Yeah, I know that. Okay, I know that you haven't finished your report yet, but
I'm almost done.
I hope that council members understand there are 22 different suggestions for us to be considering tonight that we can do. And many of them address the very basic things that would come under permitting, licensing, a health department things that have to be prominently displayed so you would know if it's there. And then I think you do. It has to go step by step. You can't just assume somebody's going to ignore the rules when we haven't really made them very clear yet. So that's what we're trying to do, is make those rules clear so that maybe this can all happen in a way that we'll have to see. But yeah, the fines are administrative, but if we have a permit process, that's something that we can regulate that way too. Councilmember Hilton.
Thank you. John, it says in your staff report that that mobile vendors may remain, this is already existing, they may remain in one place for 10 minutes, and then it provides that mobile vendor must move 100 feet before stopping again. That's already...
That's in our rules currently, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And so a sidewalk vendor with a new set of rules, actually under the state's rules, is not limited to that restriction.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. This is just sort of a wrap-up for the City Council. Then I'll take some questions, additional questions that all of you have. To move forward and bring the city's process in line with both SB 946 and SB 972, we need to update Chapter 16A and account for sidewalk vendors. If the council deems that it's...
Okay, we're about to resume. We're recording the meeting, but we're not live. So people who aren't here, like you are, will need to, in order to see this meeting, will have to watch it later. They can't watch it live. Okay, so let's proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
You better hurry up.
The City Council, I've got 2 slides to wrap up for you. Second bullet point, what you're asking the council, do you want us to come back and develop a permitting process and an ordinance that would allow for sidewalk vendors? We need to coordinate again with the County Health Department to make sure that the requirements of SB 972 are in place. And we wanted to note that, again, we will be bringing back the Chapter 16A of our municipal code. That's a few food trucks and other mobile vendors. That's a separate topic that we'll need to address in the future. And then finally, this is kind of a wrap-up, and then I'll take additional questions from the council members. In your agenda report, we have a list of permit and operational standards for sidewalk vendors that address health and safety concerns. Other requirements or conditions can be added to that list, depending on the council's direction. We noted already that we need to amend Chapter 16A, and we'll bring that back to the council along with an ordinance if you feel that that's appropriate. And as we mentioned earlier as well, that enforcement will need to be a multi-level approach. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council members may have.
Thank you. Okay, Council, I am going to go Councilmember Armendariz said first and then Councilmember Tovar, but please understand that the public has been waiting an awfully long time to be able to speak too, so I would like to make sure that we get to them instead of us just keep talking. Okay? Councilmember Armendariz.
Thank you. I spoke to a number of mobile vendors, restaurants, food truck owners. And I think one of the few issues that we can regulate and talk about and put into part of our policy is one regulating cleanliness and cleanup, right? Because I think it is, we could say, I think, Andy, if you could help with this, that it is a public health issue, right? That folks be cleaning up and disposing legally of their mess, including like the oils and grease and fats. So I think that's something that we could pursue. Is that true under the law?
I believe it is, and that's one of the draft list of conditions that we have in the
Yeah,
agenda
it's in the
report
22
to
conditions.
to address.
And the vendors themselves said that they would support, of course, cleanliness and regulating, each other on keeping clean and stuff. And then my other question is about the mobile shade structures, saying it says they may be requested in a sidewalk vending permit application. So they're not outright prohibited, but they could be depending on how we direct staff.
Yeah, we want to make sure that if they're going to be using a shade structure, that they're placing it in a location that makes sure that we have adequate ADA access around and it's not blocking anything like a fire hydrant or other emergency access. So it's just sort of a check to make sure that it's in an appropriate location. But
And then enforcement on private property, would that still germane to us?
Enforcement on private property is part of our existing regulations, part of Chapter 16A. And keep in mind the sidewalk vending rules that we would bring back to you would only cover vendors on public sidewalks or pathways or public parks, so it would not apply to private property.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor. John, thank you. And sort of just to go off of my fellow council member Armendariz mentioned, a couple things. When we have vendors out there, are they permitted to take up parking spots and because I was out there one time, I saw a bunch of cones out there, and I tried to remove them, and I got yelled at for that because I wasn't sure what they were for, but I just wanted to, is that something that's allowed?
No, our current rules, mobile vending rules, prohibit vending on a street and occupying public parking spaces, and the new rules, since they would apply only to public sidewalks or pathways, would not allow someone to set up a cart in a parking space.
Okay, and then like all of us, I've talked to several different folks, and one business, a few businesses in particular, I guess when we look at the protection, again, for our vendors, which is important, but also the protection of businesses, because I've had a couple businesses said that they've been harassed or slandered because they've reported a sort of a violation or something, and they felt that there's no protection for businesses that they want to work together, but they said that if they report something and it's found out that they've been slandered on social media and stuff, is there any protection for business owners like that?
That would not violate one of the requirements that we have in permits. And one of the things that we've been talking about internally is doing an education program for sidewalk vendors. And I think one of the key elements of that program would be to, try and do your best to be a good neighbor and not, engage in activity where you're slandering someone or arguing with a neighboring business owner.
And I bring that up because obviously, as you know, wherever we go with this, if it's where we're going to have to hire an enforcement officer for this, obviously, but I think what was mentioned, if the businesses and vendors can work together and they're regulating each other as well, I think that would be a good way to go about it as well. But again,
I agree. I think a lot of times successful businesses in operation, it's sort of an opportunity for people to work together to see what the best outcome is ultimately for the community and along with their businesses.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to go to public comment now. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
I'm sure you'll be back. But open public comment, due to the number of speakers that we have, it's going to be 2 minutes each. If you're using Jorge's daughter for translation, we'll pause the time, so the 2-minute time is for the actual speaker. It doesn't include the time that the translator is speaking. Okay? So with that, go ahead and call. And then if your name is called, will you please come and sit in the front row so that we can move through this?
Jeff Orth, Ana Quintero, Rosario Guizar, Terrence Fugazi, and David Leal.
Okay, so Christina, we should be doing just English together. Is everybody called English?
Correct.
Very
Yes.
good. Okay, great. Yep.
All right. First of all, Mayor, Council, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. These unauthorized, non-permitted food vendors, I believe that we all want the same thing, and that is a clean, safe, welcoming, and fun place to visit. And while I appreciate the entrepreneurship that goes into these vendors, the unauthorized food vendors are neither clean nor are they safe. They have no enclosed tents, no cleaning stations, or not very good cleaning stations. They have no temperature-controlled refrigeration. They leave a very greasy mess on the sidewalks. And it's amazing the amount of trash that's built up between the cleanup days. Thank you, Councilman Tovar, for your kind words. He helped me fill a second trash bin a week after we did a cleanup. It was done, but a lot of that was material that was from this debris. The restaurant business and downtown events are required to follow rules designed for public safety in mind. They get permits, taxes, rent, payroll. They properly and regularly inspect their kitchens. They're inspected to follow health code department guidelines and are graded on that. If they fail to meet the minimum requirements, they are shut down. With this in mind, I urge you to think carefully about permitting a street food vendor to continue as they have been going. Now I'm going to change gears a bit and tell you that if the city is willing to set up and enforce rules for street food vendors to support them, not just to regulate them, then maybe perhaps there's an opportunity here. Establish rules of operations, they pay fees, they're allowed to set up in specific locations. Perhaps we help give them an area in Gourmet Alley and set up a night operation like they do in many towns, both nationally and internationally. By allowing some of these inexpensive startup opportunities, you can help someone become a restaurant owner of the future, perhaps even in our own downtown. Remember, Apple Computer started in somebody's garage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
That was good because I set that up for 3.
Okay, yeah. Next speaker. I'm sorry, you might have to say it again.
Ana Quintero.
Thank you for having me here today, giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm an advocate for Ms. Rosario Guizar.
Okay, make sure you're at the microphone.
The reason I'm actually here today is because I actually turned in some pictures where some of the vendors were putting PG&E cones to save parking spots. And Rosario Guizar left a note stating to please stop putting the saving spots because it was affecting her business. Her business was slander all over Facebook. A lot of people will come over and literally come into her business and be very mean to her. So I don't think that that's appropriate. We don't have a problem with vendors. We have a problem with the action. And I got into a confrontation over Facebook regarding this because I think it's very unfair that for one person, everybody loses. So yes, we do need a policy where we have an area for them to sell and also a way for them to do a public apology to her business because they accused her of reporting her to the city, which she did not do. So that's really mean. That's the reason I'm here. She pays her dues, so she'll speak for herself on that behalf. Okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, next speaker.
Rosario Guizar.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm the owner of Viva Con Nutrition. I've been doing the business for quite a while. I enjoy what I do. I really like helping people because that's what it is. That's what we do in Herbalife. But the fact is that, the people are actually saving parking spaces, and me and other people there were complaining, but obviously not everybody has the courage to come in and explain what's going on. And we're having problems with the parking as it is downtown. And I actually left a little note stating because somebody else, I'm not going to mention any names, but somebody else said that they're going to put the finger on him. So I figured it was nice for me to leave a note. But obviously they misinterpreted it. And then one of my clients called me and said, hey, they got you on Facebook. I said, what? They got you on Facebook. So I ended up looking at the page where they had me, and they said all these things about me. I don't like problems. I really like to stay away from problems, but I don't think it's fair. I really don't think. They made me look so bad on Facebook, and I don't think it's nice because I could have done that to them, and I didn't do that. And I took pictures of actually them putting cones up for PG&E. using PG&E cones on the spaces so they would be able to come and put their trucks there to bring their stuff down. And, you know, we have the proof. So all I want is, like you said, let's work like a team. Let's not chew each other up, because it seems like that's what's been happening. I don't want to sound like the victim, but it's not fair. It's not fair. All I want is something to be done right. You know, I don't want to have any problems.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
And your shakes
Thank
are really
you.
good. Really good.
No, okay.
Yeah,
All right,
really
next
good.
speaker.
Terrence Fugazi.
Good evening. This particular issue has been growing for quite some time, I think, in Gilroy with stands and whatnot around the city. And I've been familiar with 16A for some time because of it and trying to see what we could possibly do. It is creeping out into a lot of different residential areas. Just this last weekend up on Mantelli, I stopped and spoke to a vendor who was right in front of the church there on Calle del Rey. And it's actually somebody from Watsonville that comes all the way out here to sell in our city and whatnot. I think the key to all of this is what we put into the permitting that's fair and balanced with everything that all businesses have to do, and also for the health and safety issues that we know, and really to enforce, because 16A has been on there even before the state came out with these new regulations, and there hasn't been, I don't think, a lot of enforcement under that, and as a matter of fact, a lot of knowledge, because a lot of people I've spoken to didn't even know it existed actually in our code. One of the things I think that we can also think about in this permitting is how many permits do we give out? Again, under safety, you can't give out 1,000 of them. It probably wouldn't be safe in the city, right? Downtown, because it's a limited area. Maybe we could limit for downtown the number that are downtown. And then I think we should set aside a certain percentage of all the permits that we have for Gilroy resident businesses, because it's not right that somebody might come in from Watsonville and everybody from San Jose and Watsonville take up all of the different permits that we have available. Also, as this grows, we probably want to look at even really having a parks concessionaire, so we can regulate how things happen in the park, especially with the sharks thing coming on. And last, I just want to say this is a really important thing, because if we don't enforce it, we're implicitly supporting, in some cases, and not all of them, there's a lot of great people out there, organized crime and also human trafficking, which do this kind of activity. There's lots of reports, there's lots of stuff you can read on the news over the past of this happening. They bring people in, they bring them in, and then they exploit people. So anyway, that's my view. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
David Lau.
Good evening. For the downtown, I know there's a lot of people, groups that are going out and cleaning up the downtown, which is great, and we all want to have a great downtown, and I love the business person trying to have a business and so forth, but I think going back to everything is we need to have the rules, which we're talking about, and restrictions and regulations. I mean, it's all about clean, safe, and inviting. You know, if it's clean, streets are clean, we're good. If it's safe, the trees are lit up, and, you know, you can walk around, you feel good. But if it's not, and there's garbage being left, and streets not being clean, and people being harassed, it's not fair for anyone, especially, you know, potential business owners coming into town. If they see stuff that maybe doesn't look right, for whatever reasons, you know. So I think we just really, hopefully you guys can go back and really just come up with something so everybody has an opportunity to make some money, pay their fees and their get to all the regulatory things, and just make it so it's good for the community, you know, because we're a great community. We just need to get this under control, you know, before it gets way out of whack. And it's all about safety and cleanliness to me. Yes. So that's it.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker.
Yes. So I'm going to ask Tiffany to please come to the podium. She's going to help us translate.
Okay. So all the remaining speakers are Spanish only?
Yes.
Okay.
So Micaela Rodriguez, Ricardo Ramos, Yarim Corchado, Jazmín Carvajal, y Elizabeth Carvajal.
Okay. First one up. Someone should be at the podium.
Micaela.
Buenas tardes a todos, señores.
Mi nombre es Micaela Rodríguez y estoy aquí porque también soy una vendedora. No me he puesto en la calle, pero me gustaría tener un permiso para poder hacerlo. Entonces, por eso vine para pedirles que por favor nos escuchen. Queremos hacer las cosas bien. Yo en lo personal quiero todo bien y poder pagar. Claro que sí, necesitamos un permiso. Si tenemos que pagar impuestos, lo pagaremos lo que ustedes digan o lo que ordenen.
So she's also a vendor. She hasn't been out on the sidewalks yet, but she does want to start. However, she wants to do everything right. So she wants help with the permits, with the taxes. She wants to be informed, and she wants everyone to be listened to so they know how to do everything in the correct manner.
Entonces, pues quiero pedirles, por favor, que si podrían aprobar algo o tratar de empezar a hacer algo para poder ayudarnos y nosotros estar haciendo lo correcto.
So if you could approve something or create something that could help them follow the right process.
Pienso que contribuiríamos también a la ciudad pagando taxis, impuestos, todo como debe de ser.
They would also contribute to the city by paying taxes and helping with the welfare.
Muchas gracias y gracias por todo.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for everything.
Very nice. Okay, next speaker.
Ricardo Ramos.
Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Ricardo Ramos. Estoy aquí para mencionarles que yo desafortunadamente no puedo encontrar un trabajo. Estoy descompuesto de mi rodilla y con unos ahorros compré un carrito taquero para empezar a vender. Y solamente sí les pediríamos eso, en nombre de algunos más compañeros que andan en eso de la vendimia.
So his name is Ricardo. He sadly has not been able to find employment because he has a problem with his knee. So he saved up enough money to buy a taco cart, and he's here on behalf of himself and some other vendors that he knows.
Sí, veníamos también a pedirles por favor si nos ayudaran con un permiso para poder vender y contribuir con la ciudad también. Porque mi familia tenemos 20 años viviendo aquí en esta ciudad y pues nos gusta esta ciudad y queremos por favor que nos ayuden con un permiso o algo y tengan control de nosotros mismos aquí en este lugar.
So he's asking for help on how to get a permit. He loves this city. He and his family have been here for over 20 years, and he would really like to have that way to contribute back.
Es verdad que algunos taqueros sí dejan basura ahí, pero no son los taqueros, son los clientes. Pero uno como el que vende los tacos, a lo menos en nuestra persona, en mi negocio, nosotros antes de llegar limpiamos un poquito ahí para que no esté sucio. Al momento ya de retirarnos, damos otra limpiada por lo mismo para que no haya problemas.
So what he finds that it's not the vendors that leave the trash, but the clients. But something that he does personally is he cleans up beforehand and after everyone is gone.
Traemos nuestro bote de basura, nuestra escoba y lo que es nuestro espacio donde nos ponemos, recorremos todavía unos 20 pies y otros 20 pies para los dos costados.
Yeah. So he brings his own cleaning supplies, his own trash can, and what he does is cleans 20 feet to both directions of the area that he's selling.
Y pues sí, les agradecería de antemano si nos ayudaran con eso, un permiso o algo. Estaremos muy felices contribuir y a pesar de que no tengo mi negocio, aún así yo hago impuestos. Gracias.
So he would be very grateful for help with the permit, and he would also be very happy to be able to contribute back, and that although he doesn't have everything ready right now, he does pay taxes on his business.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right, next speaker.
Yarim Corchado.
Good evening. Good evening,
Good
Mayor.
evening.
Good evening, council members. I'm here on behalf, my name is Yarim, and I'm here on behalf of Capos Event Center. So, is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm here on behalf of Capos Event Center. we've had not only a lot of issues, and I want to say within like health-wise and safety-wise. Health-wise is because we have seen like a lot of the vendors, they don't have any cleanliness, they don't wash their hands throughout the entire time, so we're open from 9 to 2 a.m. to the public. And what we find, not only is it safety for us as well, because we've gone out and we've seen that our entrances, they're being blocked. When we go outside and talk to the vendors, I am the one that's speaking to them. I'm super kind with them. And we found that they actually know the loops and for all of the rules, and they'll look at your face and tell you, oh, call them. They're actually not going to do anything. We want to thank the police department because they've come several times when we've called them. So we want to thank them for that. But it also is unfair to not only the police department, but the city for us to be calling for this kind of stuff when it should already be having like regulations. So we understand the vendors, and honestly, they're all hardworking people. But we need to come out with a solution to be able to say, okay, you know what? Not in front of our properties, because first of all, we spend so much money trying to make sure that it looks beautiful downtown. And now we have all these vendors who are blocking the way. So if our venue holds up to 1,000 people. If we have an issue or we were to have an emergency, our clients cannot come out running fast. So they're going to be walking in, there's hot stoves, there's propane tanks that they have with their carts and everything. So it's like, how do we protect our customers or our clients if we have all these people in the front? And we've asked them nicely, can you guys please go onto the side there, say, you don't own the sidewalk, which is true, we don't, but we do pay rent, we do pay taxes, we do pay all these permits to be able to be open. So how do we do it to where we can all work together and know that we are here all to work together? But can we find a solution? Can we find a place for that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next speaker.
Yasmin Carvajal.
Hola, buenas tardes, miembros del Consejo. Mi nombre es Yasmín Carvajal. Soy madre soltera de 2 niños y soy sobreviviente de violencia de género. Como la mayoría de los habitantes en Gilroy, busqué la manera de sobrevivir durante la pandemia de COVID y tuve que empezar con mi micronegocio, solo que tuve un pequeño inconveniente y pues fue el permiso, ¿verdad? Entiendo que para sacar la licencia uno tiene que pasar por un examen de salud. Entiendo que hay obligaciones como vendedor, como la limpieza. Sé que uno tiene que respetar temperaturas, contaminación cruzada y todo lo que conlleva con lo de salud de alimentos. Pero también me topé mucho con mala información en nuestra ciudad. No sé si porque no hay alguna ley o algo que pueda ayudarnos, en lo que por eso ahorita vengo yo a pedirles alguna ley o algún tipo de solución para todo lo que es el trámite.
So she is a single mother of 2. Just like a lot of people during COVID, she faced a lot of issues. So she started her own micro business. And she understands that there is a lot of health issues, health standards that they need to follow, cross-contamination, things like that. And the permit. But she found a bit of an inconvenience with misinformation. So she was wondering if there was a law or something that could help them with that.
Lo que yo pido es poder obtener un permiso para poder yo vender lo que vendo, pero también necesito la información correcta. Dado que no hablo inglés, mi idioma es un inconveniente. Entiendo que estamos en un país donde el primer lenguaje es el inglés, pero también entiendo que la mayoría de los que estamos en Gilroy somos hispanos. Y tenemos también derecho a tener un traductor o un intérprete.
So she is asking for help with the permit filing because English is not her first language. She found that to be very difficult in the process. She knows that here English is a predominant language, but she also knows that in Gilroy there is a large population of Spanish-speaking people. So she would like help with that process in her language.
Gracias.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, next speaker.
Elizabeth Carvajal.
Buenas noches a los miembros del concilio. Mi nombre es Elizabeth Carvajal. Yo empecé mi micronegocio, yo le llamo micronegocio porque es más chico que un negocio chico que se le considera en la ciudad. También empecé por COVID. He luchado por sacar adelante mi negocio. He tratado de sacar mis permisos, pero ha sido muy confuso.
So she also started her business during the pandemic. She calls it a micro business because it's smaller than a small business. And she has tried to get her permits, but she found the process very confusing.
Yo solo estoy aquí para pedirles, por favor, un asesoramiento para los pequeños negocios o micronegocios que existen en Gilroy. Nosotros teniendo el asesoramiento podemos seguir leyes que ustedes pongan. Estamos abiertos a lo que ustedes nos digan. Lo que pedimos es un espacio y pedimos permisos. Eso es todo lo que nosotros pedimos como micronegocios.
So she is looking for an accessory to help with that process. She is willing and open to following whatever standards or procedures you guys put in place, but they need help with that process.
Solo tengo una pregunta para ustedes, que es cuando no tengo nada en contra de nadie, esto yo quisiera que se llegara a un punto medio. Y la pregunta es, ¿qué pasa cuando un negocio establecido respalda a un pequeño negocio cobrándole una cuota por establecerse afuera de su negocio? Y estamos diciendo una cuota monetaria. Y estoy de acuerdo con el señor que habló, que necesitamos educarnos y estamos dispuestos a educarnos.
So she only has one question. She says that she wants to reach a resolution. She doesn't want anyone to argue. But her question is, what happens when an already established business charges a small business a monetary fee for setting up a place outside of their place of business? And that just like the man before her, she is open to learning and following the correct process.
En lo personal, yo para el 10 de mayo hice arreglos florales y a mí me cobró un establecimiento $300 por ponerme medio día.
So from her own story, on May 10th, she made bouquets to sell, and a business charged her $300 to set up her stand outside of their place.
Y con mucho gusto nosotros estamos dispuestos a contribuir con la economía de la ciudad.
And they are very happy to contribute to the city's monetary well-being.
Gracias.
Thank you. Boy. Okay. Next speaker. Yeah.
We have one last speaker, Irene Molina.
She's going to show me proof of their vending.
Hi, so I'm speaking on behalf of the vendors. I actually own a business downtown. This is my third store. And I'm very fortunate, and I'm very grateful to actually have a business. And my heart goes out to the people that can't. I built an entire business around helping people. So it just, to see families that are working 3-4 jobs, sometimes starting at 6 a.m. and then being out there till, there does have to be some kind of, I know for myself, I have allowed a particular family to be in front of my business. They're not on the sidewalk. My store is set a little further back, so they're in front of it. It has been beneficial to me in the sense that when I first opened the store, my windows were broken. I've been tagged, I don't know how many times, but this stuff doesn't happen on Friday and Saturday nights when they're there. It doesn't happen. It happens on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, but never on those nights. I've put the graffiti film on my windows, and I don't have to deal with it anymore. But the family that's outside the family that is outside does really want to go through the process of doing it the right way.
But there's so much red tape, and it's so not clear. And if it's not clear to you guys, how is it clear to them? There has to be some kind of, it's almost like they're set up to not be able to get it. I know that for myself, the business, and I can't speak on behalf of all the businesses or all the vendors, but I know the family that is in front of mine does clean up after themselves. They do come, they lay cardboard down on the ground, and they clean up. The cleanest it is in front of my store is right after they leave. I am next to the dirt lot, so what is there on Saturday mornings, Sunday mornings, are alcohol bottles and things that people have brought in. It's not necessarily completely all the vendors. It's what people are bringing in too. But I just think that there just needs to be a little more, the process needs to be a little bit easier for them.
Thank you.
It's not very clear. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
why we're here. That's why we're doing this tonight. Thank you. And any other speakers?
No additional speakers, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Closing public comment. I want to thank everybody for being so polite and understanding. This really makes this such a nicer way to go about an issue. Okay, so coming back to council, maybe I'm going to give this a stab since I haven't spoken too much. We have John Biggs for other questions, but I personally think that we should have staff come back with with a proposal that includes each of these 22 suggestions, because they all address exactly the health and safety items that we are talking about here. So for those kinds of things that are, in fact, outdoor kitchens, right, that are cooking foods outside, that they need to follow the same, they need to have displayed a health and safety or a permit that is required by the county, as well as a permit and license by the city. I personally think the permit and license should apply to even the residential areas for mobile vending, because otherwise you're going to get people, like someone said, from other cities, coming in. So that should absolutely apply. It doesn't mean they can't do it. It just means they have to have a permit and a license to do business in Gilroy like everybody else. I just have a couple of things that I would, and the rest of the council still has to speak to this, but when it comes to like number 10 that we have in our staff report, properly disposing of fats, grease, and oil, I think there should be something in there that addresses splatter of grease. For anyone who's cooking like I do in my kitchen, I mean, it's a mess. Grease splatters. How do you address people's cars that are parked right there? The sidewalk too, but how can you confine grease splatter if someone is cooking with grease? And the other thing I would suggest is that setup, not be so in front of a business, even though it's on the public sidewalk, that it not be so in front as to impede the ease of entry or exit in case of emergency, and also not be located right next to a storm drain. And those are great distances, but just to make sure that grease or anything else that may come, and not all vendors have grease, but I mean for those that do, so that it's not right at a storm drain, and that way. And then of course already included in here is the trash pickup and cleaning up, and a lot of trash may very well be brought in by customers, but you have to manage what you bring, and so at least going out certain distances. So that would be my starting point for this council.
Mayor,
we can go just a second, because I have to take it in some kind of order, and I've seen Councilmember Tovar first, and so then I'll come back here, and then I think Councilmember Hilton too. Okay, so wait, John, are there any problems with what I've just said that you see?
Not that I foresee, no.
Okay, great. So that part's at least good. And Andy, good. Okay, so Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, and thank you, Mayor, for laying that out. John, I have a question, and then I have a question probably for you and Jimmy here. And I want to commend everybody that's here tonight, because I think that we hear both sides, and we're trying. I think as a council we want to get to a point where we can work together here. But one of the things that came up, and again, I'm looking at what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do, right? And it seems that it's heavily more what we're not allowed to do. But one of the comments that was made that was concerning to me was, is it permitted that another business can charge for someone to be?
That can't be.
I think that would fall under the
No, that's why I'm asking, because
Not for the use of the sidewalk.
Yeah.
right. No, I know, but that's why I'm saying this individual mentioned that
If
she
the
was
person were to
charged.
set up on private property in front of a business, then
Yeah.
they have no right to do that, so that would be essentially, it would require a charge, and it would not be protected under this ordinance either.
Right. No, I wanted to ask that question because I want to make sure that business owner knows that she cannot be, they cannot charge her for that. But the second question, or maybe something to think about. And I know we're trying to figure this all out, but I think the concerns that I'm hearing, because again, we want to work with everybody, but the concerns that we're hearing, and which I and others kind of feel the same way, but how the processes are currently set up for individuals, and the frustration that a lot of people have when it comes to permits and in sort of the process, and especially for non-English speaking individuals. I mean, so what do we have in place that it's going to assist these individuals get the proper permits that they need? Because again, when I hear frustration, there's so much different information out there, then I think there's a problem with us here not being clear and precise about what everyone needs to do.
Yeah. I think City Manager Forbes would like to.
Thank you, Mr. Tovar. I'd like to offer a suggestion to council, because this is a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
And you have 22 areas that we've said that we can look at. And I think in order for us to be the most effective is that I think staff needs to dive into this and include a public process that includes the vendors, the businesses, to kind of work through some of these issues. And then by the time we come back to council, you can fine tune, because it's so large right now. And we don't really have a process to answer your question. And we want, and one of the things I keep trying to reiterate is we want this to be as simple as possible, because we know most of the people will comply. It's the one or two that do not comply and have given our code enforcement officers verbal abuse and threats. Those are the ones that we're really most interested in. We know that most of the other folks would be happy to get a permit, and that way they're not bothered. So that's my suggestion to council, is to let us work with the community a little bit on our time, and to come back with something that we know not everybody's going to agree on everything, but at least you can look at it and say, well, it's reasonable given the rules that we have and what the state is telling us we have to do. But right now, it's the Wild West out there, and we do talk to some of these restaurants who are just they pull up right in front and they dump the grease on the sidewalk. That we have very large issues like that. So that would be my suggestion to council.
Okay, Councilmember Armendariz.
So a couple things. Mayor, in regards to what you mentioned about the disposal and not being close to the entrance to another building because of the need for safety in case of a fire, right, or the amount of space needed for public safety, are we open to making that a foot or yard requirement? Like, is there a distance that we can enforce on that?
Oh, I'm sure there is. That would be for that's what staff would have to come back with. What is safe for 1,000 people to have to exit if there's a fire in the building?
Something, if it's a public safety and health issue.
Right. We would look to our
can we be more detailed on that?
Yeah, we can be more detailed, and we look to our building code and our fire code regulations to make sure that we're maintaining those safe egress and ingress standards.
Okay. And then, second question, to help with enforcement, if a cart is on private property and we don't know if they're trying to evade our ordinance, can we ask if their written permission from the property owners also be displayed? Because they'll have to display the health permit, everything else, right? So if they're on a property owner's private land, but the property owner's not around to enforce,
that's a good idea.
Can we
We
do
can
that?
we can wrap that into our current mobile vending
So you're
regulations.
taking notes on all the stuff
Yep.
that we're doing. Okay. Yeah, no, because then it makes it easier too. People going by don't have to call and they can see this is authorized.
And then
And again,
16A.
may I, excuse me. Again, this ordinance does not regulate the use of private property. It's only for setting up the sidewalk. So that is essentially would be a separate issue in terms of if we want to even allow such vending on private property, which the city does not have to do.
Well, we don't allow or disallow on private property.
Well, no, if someone wants to set up a food operation out in front of another business, that would be regulated by all the regulations that apply to the operation of the food business. So in essence, it would be subject to city land use controls, county health, et cetera, because it would be a private business not on the public right-of-way and not subject to all the protections.
I'm just saying,
of
we
state
have
law.
a few empty lots in our downtown and throughout the city. If somebody wants to skirt our laws, how do we enforce if we don't know that they have permission? And if we ask that they just display permission, I think that'll, it makes it more efficient.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the last one, 16A, talks about a mobile cart can only be at a location for 10 minutes. Can we flesh that out so that we know that it's talking about, a paletero, not other types of carts? Can we get down to more specifics in terms of its mobility and?
Yes, the ordinance that we would bring back to you would allow for a sidewalk vendor to be there for a longer period of time.
And the problem is there's some overlap in the definitions.
Yeah,
We'll have to try
right.
to sort that out, but it's not trivial.
Yeah, and I was suggesting too that even those require a permit.
Correct.
They can move around, but we need to be aware so that it's all, yeah.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Yes.
That's council direction.
Yeah. Okay, Councilmember Hilton?
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is a good striking of the balance of needs for both. And I too agree with all the 22. And, I'm looking forward to seeing, what staff can do in their public engagement, but also have the opportunity when this comes back for a public hearing to, after you gather all that data and we talk with the public too, that we're able to, fine tune some stuff. Because I do agree having it all of these really regulate on a great nature, but it might be too deep and too long for people. But one thing that I think is really important to keep in there is and some other people have said it too, is the placarding right on the outside. So that way, any of us, if someone calls us and says, "Oh, this person keeps coming out there," you could say, "Well, snap a picture of it real quick for me." You'd be like, that's the health department code. That's the city of Gilroy's permit. It just makes it really easy, I think, for anybody to be able to do it and not take up staff time or questions or waiting around. Thank you.
No, one more question.
Okay, Councilmember Armendariz?
Thank you. Is, so night markets and designated or sanctioned areas for food carts only, that's not allowed with the Senate bill? Is that true?
That's correct. This bill only covers sidewalk vendors. So a night market or a grouping of food trucks on a private lot or even on a public street would be a separate permitting process.
Like a special event, or is it something we could?
Well, it could be
Have
a
on an
special event
ongoing
permit
basis.
or depending on how we come back with some amendments to Chapter 16A, it could be on a case-by-case basis to allow events or activities during certain times of the year or for specified periods of times.
Okay, I'd like to see that. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going back to our staff report, and it says, depending on council direction, mobile vending can be brought back separately. I certainly don't want to, I would like that brought back, but it doesn't have to be, it could be right after this, or what are you encouraging us to try to do? What would you like, Jimmy, as far as what staff can handle at one time?
Right, and I believe when you mentioned mobile vending, you're talking about food trucks?
Yes.
Yes, so we intentionally separated that out because that is a much different type of process because it occurs on city roads where the regulatory authority of the city is much different. So as we've seen tonight, this is a massive project to take on, so we will work on this first, and then we'd like to return at some point to talk about food trucks and how they can be integrated into the downtown or not.
Okay. Right, because we currently have food trucks using public parking, right, for longer lengths of time than even cars can use them. Okay. Okay, so you have direction?
I have
We're
direction.
moving on?
We will come back to you.
Is for food trucks, of course, you guys include what our neighbors are doing, things like you look at policies from our neighboring cities and communities.
We do, and when we did benchmarking, it really is it's a mishmash of non-enforcement at all to enforcement. So there's a lot of different things going on out there, and it's not consistent.
Yeah, we'd all have a lot to say on that, but we're not doing that tonight because that's going to come back. We're saying to come back. Okay.
Great.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much.
Everybody, for being here. Stay tuned. This will come back more clearly. We're on it. Okay. Okay. Moving on. Are you asking for a break? No. Okay. So now we're on 11.3, which is the formation of a downtown standing committee. And Jimmy's going to give us the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. We are returning for this item that has been on your agenda for a little while, and we're looking to get the formation of the Downtown Committee official this evening. And there are a few things that we'd like to talk to Council about establishing before that committee meets for the first time. Okay. So just for a quick reminder, the Ad Hoc Committee for Downtown met from November 2021 to October of 2022 and developed a total of 9 recommendations that the full City Council approved of. And then on January 9, 2023, a future agenda item request to form a standing Brown Act Downtown Committee was approved, and the item was heard on February 6, and Council provided 3 directions. One was to enhance the reporting that was coming for downtown projects, and then to discuss the topic at your March 13th goal-setting priority workshop. And then at that workshop, again, you decided to form the committee. The committee was discussed at your March 13th meeting as well, and the following consensus was stated. Nothing was adopted and nothing was approved, but this is where you started. And the council started with the committee would be comprised of council members, and at that time, initially 5 council members had shown interest on being on the committee. With it being a Brown Act committee, you could have all 7, or you could have as few as as few as you wanted at that point. You would meet quarterly or monthly as may be needed by the committee, and then the first year the committee would focus on what the council had already adopted, which was the 9 recommendations from the ad hoc committee in October 2022. So with the formation discussion tonight, you've made it through all 3 of the directives concerning the downtown committee, and so now we need council direction on the establishment of that committee and certain provisions that will allow the committee to meet its goals. The city has traditionally formed committees by resolution. That way, the goals, the structure, and all that is detailed, and it avoids confusion. And so the resolution would need to be established tonight. That is the recommendation that you do so. We have a draft resolution. We do expect that you will modify it, and so we will make sure to incorporate that into the final resolution. But some of the things that we have in the resolution is that the membership originally was 5 voting council members plus non-voting downtown members. And some of the discussion was that, many council members wanted appointees or others. And so we do understand that that's something council wants. How you go about that, we may suggest that each council member is allowed to appoint 1 member, so that way we don't go through a whole vetting process of voting and who wants who. You just are able to designate a representative that works with you on the committee. Whether or not you want them to vote or not is a council discretion, but regardless of who votes, it would all still have to go back to the full council. It would be a recommendation to the full council. The term, as discussed previously, was for 24 months. We did talk about quarterly meetings. There was discussion about monthly and the ability to call for special meetings as needed. And then the powers and scope, or the duties, was that the first year only the adopted recommendations, but the second year could be expanded, and whatever the committee at that point wanted to work on. It should also be noticed that, or should be noted that previously the council stated that this is a council working committee and that staff interaction will be there for the purpose of agendas, minutes, and to answer any questions. But as for initiatives coming out of this committee, that would be at the onus of the actual committee itself. So the draft resolution has terms based on feedback from the goal setting workshop discussion, and like I stated, we're expecting to modify that tonight as well. I think is there a question? I can pause.
Your question now?
Sure.
Yeah. So when I talked about including members of our downtown business community and I also asked about folks who live downtown, and I'm wondering, can we name those seats as, like, can we be very, just, like, they have to be defined, right? So we have not just building owners, but to make sure that we have actual business owners too represented, and also folks who live downtown, because I think it's it's growing, and that's kind of stuff we like, right? So I think it's important that those seats be defined.
Right. So that's actually not a question for Jimmy. That's going to be for us. So as soon as he's done with his report, I know that I'm going to try to take these one at a time, and that's right on the list.
Great.
Top one to go with how we want to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have numerous council decision points. We've listed these that we feel would help us, set you up for your meetings. But council consideration on structure should be determining the voting membership. Do you want non-council voting members, or do you not want them? How do the non-voting members get appointed? Or are they going to be voting? How do you appoint them? So that's the part where you talk about, do you want residents? Do you want businesses? You really can do anything here.
Mm-hmm.
We would like the council select a chair and a vice chair this evening as well. That will make sure that your first meeting you hit the ground running. You don't spend a lot of time doing the admin. And then the frequency and length of committee meetings. How often do you want to meet? For how long? And then also the date and time of meetings. I think it's important that a group, that whatever number this is you're just going to have to set a date, and this is the date every time we meet, because coordinating schedules with a large group like this you're never going to find a date that works for everybody. And then
Jimmy, can I interrupt you on that?
Sure.
So when it comes to the chair and vice chair, do you see this as the staff person, as the chair would be the person creating the agenda each meeting? Because you're just posting it.
Right.
Right? So I want everybody to be aware of the work involved in being on this committee. Because,
Right.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify.
Mayor, I think it would be the chair and the vice chair.
Oh,
would
fine.
work to-
But I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not staff. Okay? That's what I'm pointing out. Yeah. Okay.
Just want to be clear.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So I think at this point I can turn it over to council to discuss what they want from this committee. It's your committee, and take your direction going forward.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I wonder if I should go to public comment first.
Sure.
Yeah, that way we'll hear what.
Yeah.
We don't have any
Okay.
public comments.
Okay, so never mind, public comment. All right, so I think I have a plan just to take these things in order. And so the first is membership. And so I would like us to all discuss what is the membership going to be. And maybe I need to first start, except that one council member's missing. I wanted to confirm who on the council wants to be on this committee. Right.
Why don't you wait until he...
I thought
wait.
we had identified ourselves at the...
We did, but there's been a change.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay, so until Councilmember Bracco comes back, what are the ideas? And maybe I'm just going to throw out one. So first of all, let's define the boundary, whether it's a business, a resident, or a property owner. Do we agree that the boundary is 1st to 10th Street, Railroad to Eagleberry?
Yes.
That would be
Okay.
fine.
Okay, so that's the boundary. 1st to 10th, Railroad to Eagleberry. Okay, so then within that area, do we want to include business owners, property owners, and residents as potential members?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I would like to see, I think, just building and business owners, because we're talking about downtown, and I know residents have a say, but I don't know if...
Okay, so let's
okay,
see if
go
there's
ahead.
support for residents too.
Yeah.
Then.
So let me
Okay.
elaborate a little bit on that, because you're going to have two types of memberships. You're going to have the voting membership, and then the non-voting membership. So, for example, for me, I would say for the voting membership, it would be those building owners, and then for the non-voting membership, it would be residents, right? So again, they'll have a say, but I mean, if we're focusing in on the businesses, then the voting members would be.
But the voting members are the council members.
Well, not necessarily.
Not
That's
necessarily.
what we're here to say.
We could determine it.
And a
Right.
resident falls under a property owner if the resident owns the property they live in that area.
Or if they're just renters, too.
Well, if
I
they're-
think...
I'm
yeah.
just, to the point, that's what we're saying, is if you're a tenant, then you're a resident. And that's what we're asking.
Right.
Does that...
I'm seeing folks who make their home in an apartment or in a building downtown, right? a studio, what have you, should have a vote on it because I think they're equal members of our community. If you own a business or own a building, I don't think that gives you more standing or more merit. I think you should also have a vote equal to that of the building owner or the
Okay.
business owner.
So then we have one person saying that everybody should be a voting member. That's what I'm hearing.
I mean, I say we number, right? We have a limited number of folks.
Yes,
of
we haven't gotten to
seats.
the number yet.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, but whoever's on the committee then is a voting member, so there's no such thing as a non-voting member.
Maybe we should
Is
get
that-
to the number of people that we're going
Okay.
to have on the
Yeah.
committee.
Okay.
And then we decide because.
Okay, who on the council is wanting to be on this committee? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're not. Okay, so that's still 5, only we're swapping out Klein for Bracco. Okay, fine. So there's 5. Now, of those 5, how are we adding members? Did each council member pick 2?
I like that idea.
Yeah, I like that
Okay.
idea.
But then
Because
shouldn't
that
it,
way, each council member, like if Rebecca only wants residents, or if
Right.
that's allowed,
Okay.
she could pick residents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. The criteria is first to Monterey, railroad to Eagleberry, and that they be either a resident, business owner, or property owner.
I would like that as well.
Okay.
shouldn't we have an odd number, though, to break a tie in case of, for votes?
We would. Maybe 15.
Well, then-
We
It would
should
be
have an
10.
odd number because we're
It'd be-
5.
it'd be
Oh, there's
15.
2 each. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Thank
that
you.
means there would be up to 15 people. 15, okay, on this
So-
committee who will all be voting. And all worker bees, with the people you recruit, you got to tell them, this is not just coming to a meeting and giving your opinion.
Right.
Anything you want done, anything that's supposed to be a progress report to the next meeting comes from the committee.
We don't want answers, we want solutions.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
where I
Questions.
worry about some of the residents.
Right.
If they would have those solutions, because it's the building and business owners
Okay,
that we're
but
trying
everybody
to.
gets to pick 2. So
Okay,
you don't,
go ahead.
Yeah,
All right.
Let's go with that.
And
Okay.
I want
You hate
to
residents,
say.
Jerome.
Go ahead.
I don't hate them. I don't know if they have all the knowledge of
Okay.
what we're dealing with on the committee.
We don't know that
I'm
about
pretty sure they
anybody.
have the knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we have the knowledge and we're council members,
Yeah.
We
but
have
none
some
of us
really-
do this as a profession.
Well, I know we work a little
I
bit
think that
more
it'd be a good
on
idea, and I'd
identifying.
caution you guys to really do have some residents on here. And the reason why is because all the major regional committees and even local ones like Visit Gilroy, GDBA, Chamber of Commerce, none of them have like an an at-large member of the community, a resident,
Right.
Okay.
right, to get in there. So I would say that you have the opportunity to show a little bit more transparency and some hand
And inclusion.
inclusion to those that do live down there, that know that they don't have a voice in those.
Okay.
I
committees.
agree.
So we're in agreement. Yeah,
Okay.
we're actually in agreement. So the membership is going to be 5 council members. So it's excluding Councilmember Hilton, Councilmember Klein. And we are going to each have the ability to pick 2 from the criteria of first to Monterey, Eagleberry to Railroad, and that they must be property owners, business owners, or residents within that area.
Yep.
Okay, and they will all be voting members. All right, that's membership. So now, where and when, where and the frequency. So the thing to know here about the location is that these meetings, the options would be council chambers here, and it doesn't have to be on the dais. I mean, it can be, down on the floor. Yes?
I don't think we should tie it to a council meeting. We have enough to do at our council meeting.
Right, you want it on a separate date.
And
Yeah.
down here is harder for a lot of people to come here and speak.
Right,
I would rather see us in a neutral place, someplace downtown where people are comfortable to speak.
So we have the Center for the Arts building, right, that we own. We could meet in there.
Right.
But what do we?
Library. Could meet in the library.
Library,
Yeah.
or even one of the local businesses or restaurants.
I think this is the people's house, though, honestly. And we don't have to be up here. We could be
Well, that's
how
what
we
I was,
set it up.
That's what I said. Yeah.
So is this meeting not going to be recorded or anything for people to be able to watch?
It's Brown
They
Act,
don't.
right?
They don't. It doesn't have to. I asked that question. Andy or Jimmy, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be recorded, except I think it would be better if it were, so that people could keep track of it and keep minutes and tally votes and keep a better record of what has been done. It doesn't have to be live. It doesn't have to be broadcast, however.
It doesn't have to be here, but all of those things are way easier, and we could do them if it's here, and we can't if it's somewhere else.
Yeah.
So
I'm
it's
for it being here. Yeah. I think this is where this is of the community, right? It belongs to the community.
And Jimmy, can we do, and we don't have to do it on the same night as a council meeting? Yeah, it was a suggestion, right, Jimmy was suggesting that we might consider doing it on the night of a council meeting, not in a council, not as part of a council meeting, but just at the same, on the same night.
I think it
But
would be
if-
too long.
if you
People
don't
would
wanna
be
do that-
tired.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plus, if we did it, it would have to start at 5 o'clock. And that might be hard for some of the members to get here because you can't expect the
No, the
public
suggestion was to start at
wait
6.
until 9 o'clock
Suggest-
or 10 o'clock.
Yeah, it was to start. Okay, so, well, the meetings will be here. They'll be on the floor, and they will be now,
Well, right. I guess the next question is how often?
yeah, exactly.
Well, I
Quarterly,
was-
monthly, or every other month.
I was hoping monthly.
I know.
I think we need to, well,
And so is Carol.
I think we need to start monthly
Right.
because we need to know where we're going. And as soon as we know where we're going, because
Thanks, Mayor.
I don't want us to spend the first year talking about the 9 recommendations. They should already be underway.
But
I
that
can
is what we're
see
talking about.
I can see us going ahead to make sure they're being done, but then I think we also need to go ahead and move ahead because there was a reason why we wanted this committee to start.
Yeah.
And
Can we
that's
do
what we need
the-
to.
Can we do the first 3 months monthly and then move to quarterly?
Yeah, oh yeah, I don't think we have to keep going. If
We can do
decide
it.
to
I
do
just
we
want to
don't
say
have
that
do it
when we
monthly
get to
forever.
a chair, and a vice chair and the other people on the committee, that if you're going to start out monthly, then those people, the chair in particular and vice chair together, need to make sure that whatever we establish as progress is done from one month to the next, and not that we're just meeting from the same position that we left off at the last meeting.
And as
Okay.
you kindly pointed out, Mayor, so yeah, you're right. So when I first brought this up, obviously, I mean, yeah, the intention was to have it monthly, but as what was just being discussed here is once we get the momentum going, then we can do it bi-monthly. But I think in the very beginning, first 3 months, we meet monthly, and then we try to spread it out after that.
Quarterly or?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would do it the opposite way, but I may be outvoted.
Well, we
so-
can, the group can always change it once we get going.
I
if
know,
it
I
doesn't
just would
work,
start
yeah.
at the less frequent and go to more
No,
frequent.
we have to,
We got a lot of work to do.
get it running.
That's fine. So the majority up here wants it to start monthly.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing? Not even every other month, monthly.
Monthly, just for
Okay.
the first few months.
Okay, it's monthly. And do we need to go as far as setting the day of the week that's going to be? We need to do that now.
I think we should.
Yeah,
Okay.
Can we do
and
a
Okay.
Google poll later, like on email, so that
Yeah,
we
let's
can
do
look at our
that.
schedules and stuff?
Because I just asked
there
it,
a
I mean,
night
for
I wish
all
we'd
of
done
us.
that already, because that's why this is on the agenda.
Right. I mean, I think what works for the ad hoc committee is we had, I think it was a Tuesday at 8 o'clock or whatever it is. And so it gives folks who don't work in Gilroy can have time to be here and then sort of leave. So, I mean, I would be open to an 8 a.m. if that's what we're going to do, or we do a 6 p.m. in the evening. But, I mean, something early morning, so those folks that have to, like myself, have to drive to
You
San
could
Jose.
do 8 a.m., that would be great.
Yeah.
8 a.m.? Or,
Yeah, we can do it for an hour and a half, and then
that would
people.
be, that would be the best.
You're
So-
going to see me without my hair combed.
That's
fine.
okay. That's
Like
okay.
8 a.m. better
Look.
than evenings? Okay.
We're happy.
All right, then we're saying 8 a.m. on what?
Tuesdays?
A Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Yeah, okay, good.
Tuesdays at 8 a.m. So the second Tuesday, the
Yes,
third
Let's
Tuesday?
do second or third.
Well, we got to pick one. That's why we're
How
here.
about Second Tuesday?
Yeah, whoever's the chair is going to bring
Okay.
the
If this
snacks.
meeting runs
so-
late,
No, it
y'all are going to be grouchy in the morning.
That's
Second
But
Tuesday,
these are the first and third.
8 a.m.
8 a.m.?
Here in council
Yes.
chambers.
Here.
Yes.
Second Tuesday, is that what we said?
Yes.
Yep, here in council chambers.
Okay.
Okay. Monthly. Yep.
Jimmy, is that going to be an inconvenience for staff to rearrange this room? I hate to put a.
No, we do it for conversation
Yeah.
coffee
Do it?
with the mayor. It's
Oh, all
covered.
right.
We do it as long as we know the date.
For the vice chair to do it.
And the reason it's so important, you guys, to nail this down like this,
Yeah.
like we're doing tonight, is because then we can put the notice, not just noticing for the
Right.
Brown Act stuff, but we can let everybody in that downtown area know that these are the meeting times and places, and it's consistent. It's not at this location this time and at this location another time. It's consistent so that people, because as whoever wants to come can come. It's not
Right.
just the committee.
And then obviously this will start in May because we're already past the second Tuesday, correct?
Yep.
Good.
Okay? All right, scope for the first year is supposed to be limited to the initiatives.
Mayor,
Yes?
We didn't talk about the other members. How long would they serve? Is it a year term? Is it
I just
perpetuity?
assumed, I don't know. We didn't address that. I was assuming for the duration of the committee, which we said is 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, but the only thing I would caution is, and again, Rebecca, I love the fact that you brought this up about someone who lives downtown, but if that individual moves from downtown, then what happens with that
It's
seat?
just like our commissions.
No, I
then.
know.
You gotta
I'm just saying, I just want
you have
us
to
to be
replace
aware of
them.
that.
Vacancy, which you then fill in the same way.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
If you appointed that person,
Right.
you would pick another person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I just
that's
say that
good.
because
That
if
person,
that
yeah,
person moves, we have
fill
to
it.
make
Of
sure that
course.
we're,
Or their
Yeah,
business
like you can't
closes,
move
or
and still
they
be on the
sell
council. I mean,
building,
that's how,
anything
you know.
like that.
Right. Okay. Okay.
so no moving. All right.
Right. No moving. Well, within.
Or
right,
selling
yeah.
your
know.
business,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Okay.
going bankrupt.
So we're now on to scope. Because the scope is supposed to be, what we all directed was that the scope was going to be what the council has already approved. Because remember, the committee is not the council, even though it is 5 of the council.
Right.
What's gone before the council are the initiatives that were approved from the ad hoc committee. And so the scope for the first year is supposed to be limited to that. So there can be all kinds of ideas to come up with how to address them, but we're not supposed to be going outside that for the first year.
I'd like to change that.
Okay, I would not.
Let me sort of my take on it. And I
Can
understand.
we change that when we've already?
Yeah, can we change it?
Well, I
first
guess
of
we
all?
can. The whole council's here.
You can do
do
whatever you
anything.
want at this meeting.
Right.
Okay, so this is where Tom and Zach can
Because I
chime
think
in.
what Councilmember Marks, what was mentioned earlier,
Say
the-
no.
The recommendations have already been decided on,
Yeah, there's
right?
something to talk
And we're
about.
moving on those recommendations. We can have discussion about where we're at with those recommendations, but to be really proactive and have this group sort of engage, we should be able to have discussions about other things. We're not directing staff to do anything because it's all going to come back to council, but we should have those discussions about future items or whatever it may be. So it consists of the recommendations, but also consists of future projects.
Could we pull those up so the public could see them while we're
Oh, I thought
talking
we
about
had
it?
those actually.
Is that okay?
Weren't those somewhere? What
They
those
were in
initiatives
this.
were? Weren't they supposed to be here for us?
Our
Maybe not.
audience, not the internet
Whoops.
public.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if we don't
Because
have.
I think having a discussion just on the 9 or the recommendations, I mean, there's
Just the
not going to
9
be much to talk
recommendations?
about, right? So.
Well, exactly. Where we talked about for all those months.
Right.
Are we doing it?
Oh,
Yes,
my
we're
goodness,
doing
you
it.
guys.
Okay,
So I think it would be up to the chair and the vice chair to sort of structure that agenda.
Well, for a working group, we need something to work on.
Yeah, exactly.
I think if you can get all of those initiatives addressed, I think that would be marvelous.
Well, but staff's working on them.
yeah.
We can't,
But these are
we
working
can't-
meetings, right? And we'll have we have folks who are personally impacted at these meetings, right? Wanting to see progress and make progress happen. So we have to have a work plan, and we have to have goals and metrics
Yep.
to meet.
We'll work on it. It'll get done.
Yes.
It'll get done.
But, okay, so then how about this? We stick with the initiatives, and if they're going to be so quickly handled, then in 2 or 3 months' time, we'll be able to move on.
I like it.
I mean, the point is that we address those first. When they are addressed, then, if they're handled sooner than a year,
I guess where
then
I'm
that's
coming
fine.
from is the ad hoc committee and the council approved those 9 recommendations. In my mind, they're already being addressed, or they should be.
Should be.
Because that was the direction, I mean,
Well,
correct
then
me,
that brings
Fred,
you
if I'm
into this
wrong, but
discussion.
that was the direction I thought.
Right, because when I first brought this, bringing this forward, it was said, well, why, if those recommendations are already being worked on, right? And there was hesitation because, well, what are you going to talk about if we're already working on these recommendations? So I think, again, we can talk about the recommendations, see where we're at with the progress, but then we fold in the other topics as well. So
we need to see what those recommendations were
Yeah,
again.
we have to go back and look.
Yeah, you need to be reminded. Okay, so while we're calling those up,
Some of them. Yeah. I just think there's
Oh.
details and, specs in each of those recommendations that we need to be on top of.
yeah, I agree.
And engaging the community in.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, and if those 9 recommendations take a year, then so be it.
I'm going to record you saying that.
so
Fred.
can we?
That wasn't me, that was Tom.
Well, can we agree to just start with those initiatives, and when they're done, they're done. It
Yeah.
might be fast. And so that we would then because I think at the first meeting, and this is going to be for the chair and vice chair to deal with, and we're going to get to that next, at least in the order that I have it. But we would at the first meeting, we would prioritize the order in which the things that are not yet done get done, and assign the responsible party to who is responsible for the progress, and how are we defining progress to the next meeting.
Yeah, what the work that needs to be done
Yeah.
and who's going to do it.
And who's going to do it, and who's responsible, who's the champion of that particular thing that makes sure that ball is not dropped.
Got it.
I mean, that's where the work comes in. And then I would say, then beginning with those top three, define the next steps, the deadlines, the party responsible for progress, like I just said, and then take each initiative in that same manner.
Now, when do we
Okay.
pick our two people? Because
Well, that's going to have to start now, because
okay,
you have to know who they are before the first meeting.
Exactly, that's what I was saying. So tonight, you want us to name them?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay, when do you want
I guess
us to
give
I
it
think,
to
yeah, no, I think when we get established, when everything's
the chair.
established.
Whoever we say is the chair will collect
Right,
those names.
then,
Oh, all
you know,
right,
2
okay.
weeks or whatever, yeah.
And then they'll be on the agenda, they'll be on
Okay.
the agenda
Yep.
for the first meeting,
Okay,
which has to be known a week before
Right.
whatever the agenda noticing
Okay.
requirements are.
all right.
Okay? So are we waiting for something or no?
Nope.
We're
waiting
not.
for
We're
you.
not waiting for something. So,
The nine, we're not going to get the 9.
I don't think so.
I can email that to you.
Okay.
but so
I mean,
just,
we have it. I just wanted the audience to be able to see it.
Yeah.
I know, I'm sorry that's not here too, but.
That's okay.
Okay. So we're saying then that the first meeting will be dealing with the 14 or the 9, I thought it was 14, but if it's 9, whatever it is, whatever
9,
those are,
9.
that was approved by the council, so that's in the public record. We know what those are. We'll prioritize and take the top 3, and then we'll define, we'll prioritize them and address each one with defining the next steps, the deadlines, and the responsible party for progress.
Right.
Okay. So now we select a chair and a vice chair.
Well, I mean, are we making
I
nominations?
guess whoever.
Mayor, I want to nominate you for chair.
Oh gosh.
Because you have, in all your spare time, you can
Yeah,
do it.
Who wants to do it?
Yeah.
Fred?
Well, so,
I would
no,
like
no, no.
Karen,
So,
yeah.
so let me tell you, so, you know, obviously, I mean, I've been championing this, but I think Rebecca's absolutely right. I mean, I'm actually I'm interested in vice chair, so that's why I'm saying this. Is we have to have somebody that's going to have the time, and luckily some of you are retired and you have more time than others, so I would nominate Carol.
And Carol, you want to be the chair,
I would
right?
like to be the chair, yes.
So, no?
I just like the way you run meetings. I think it's efficient. Yeah.
I know that Carol, would nominate, thank you, but I would suggest Carol, chair, Fred, vice chair, and the 2. And, I mean, if it doesn't work, you guys, in 3 months' time, when the initiatives are done, we might be bringing up a suggestion to change that, too.
Doesn't matter.
But
I think we're confident in running a committee. I don't think you
No,
believe
it's
in
not
us,
about.
but-
No, it's not about running the. It's not about
There was
running.
hesitancy.
It's not running the meetings. It's making sure that there is progress between them. I
Well,
just
you
know
ha-
what it was like on
Right.
the ad hoc committee for the Sharks, and how with every month there had to be very specific things
Right.
that we were going to see done by the next meeting. And yeah,
Well, with the recommendations, you know, some of it is staff-driven, so that's
This
not
is-
our
none of
job.
this is
That's-
staff-driven.
No. The recommendations, I wish we had them, Ty, because I don't really remember. Do you remember what some of them were?
I can
Or
read
Jim?
them to you.
Thank you.
If you'd like. I think the internet's coming up, but our G drive isn't. Okay, so one was to update the downtown strategic plan, develop new ordinances to address vacancies and noise, pursue opportunities for an assessment district, develop a downtown parking management plan, implement a facade blight removal program, create a downtown building planning fee reduction program, establish a downtown pop-up park, develop beautification and decorative lighting improvements, that was $100,000, and then do a downtown jumpstart kickoff meeting.
Right. Which we've done a few of those.
Yeah.
so the 9 is what you're saying are left of those, Jimmy? Is that where the 9 comes from?
Those are the 9.
Those are the 9.
Oh, those are 9.
So, I mean, Jimmy, correct me, but, you know, the strategic plan, isn't that community development? I mean, there's some areas that I don't see us stepping into other people's territory to do.
But I don't, Well, I don't understand what you're asking me.
Well, like, do you want this committee to create the specific plan for downtown? Isn't that
Right, there's a role for council at some point
Exactly.
in that, but not in getting it going.
Thank you. So that's what I mean. Some of the recommendations.
I think what she's asking is which of those things are for this committee and which ones are not.
Right, because there's some areas that we don't tread in.
Well, I can go through them again and just kind of tell you my thoughts. You may.
Yes, Okay. please.
Downtown strategic plan, I don't think the committee. New ordinance to address vacancies and noise. I do believe the committee can
Yes.
work on that. Pursue opportunities for an assessment district. No, not for the committee. Develop a downtown parking management plan. No,
Done.
not for the committee. Facade plywood blight removal program. We've already finished that one.
Did we? Because
Well,
I
it's been
still see
approved by
plywood
council.
up.
Well,
Yeah.
the program itself is on its way.
Up and
All
running.
right.
Create downtown building planning fee plan reduction program. We've done that.
Yeah.
Establish a downtown pop-up park. We're doing that right now. I don't know that the committee really has a role in that as well. And then beautification, decorative lighting improvements.
We're
Committee
working on
could
that.
have a role in that.
Mhm.
And then we've already had the downtown jumpstart.
Yeah.
So that's two
So
or three
one.
things. Was it one or two or three?
Two or three. It's kind
It
of
was two or three.
Too specific.
That's why, again, I think we can tackle
Okay.
these. Yeah,
Well, then
we
let's
can.
do those two
Yeah.
or three first, right? Come up with
Okay.
what we want to, if it results in something to bring back to the council or not. And then, I guess then it's open to,
Yeah.
to whatever, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So
You need a
our
second?
chair is,
Report backs to the full council now, or do we do that as part of our agenda?
the reports back to the full
Yeah, shouldn't we
council
report back to
were,
full council?
yeah,
at some
well,
point? I mean,
maybe.
the committee should report back. right, to
Yeah.
full council, just
Absolutely,
like Fred
but
did when we
not
did the-
each month, though, I
No.
don't think. I mean, I think let's wait and
Quarterly or
see.
every
Yeah, I don't
6
even know if,
months?
yeah, I think it's going to depend on,
Yeah.
we can do that anytime. We just can't, we can't do anything as a committee. We can't direct staff as a committee. Those are the things we cannot do without the council. Even though the committee is the council majority, it's not a council meeting.
Right.
Right.
It's an ad hoc.
Okay. Okay. And Jimmy is planning to be the staff member who attends, in case anybody didn't realize that. Okay, it's going to be Jimmy. What else do we have to do tonight, then?
A couple other quick questions about
Okay.
it. One, if it has 15 members and they're all voting, what would a quorum be? In other words, how many people do you have to be there to have a meeting? Would it be a majority of the 15?
Majority
Would it be
plus
more
one
than that?
meets.
Like 8, for example?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how many votes would it have to take? Oh, it's an advisory committee, but assuming you have voting members and are taking votes, how many votes would it take to actually pass something?
Majority.
Also 8? Well, it doesn't have to. It could be less, it could be more. It could also have to include certain council members or not. I mean, a certain number of council members. And theoretically, the 10 public members could outvote the 5 council members, for example. Maybe that's okay.
That's
But
true.
In any event, you could,
Yeah.
you could have restrictions. For example.
No, I like that.
Well, for example. For example, with the straw, there are 3 Gilroy members and 2
Right.
Morgan Hill members. But as you know, any vote has to have at least 1 from each
So make a
city.
suggestion, Andy.
Yes.
What's a suggestion?
I would think that anything that you vote on should have at least 3 council members in order to pass in the affirmative.
Okay.
I think that would be a suggestion.
Okay, at least 3. And how many is a quorum?
8.
Okay, 8 is a quorum.
Done.
And that's it. The rest of it, so 8 is a quorum.
Right.
Votes, things pass with a majority as long as at least 3 council members are included in that.
Yes, and you could put some requirement on how many council members have to be there to have a meeting, but I wouldn't bother doing it, because I think you're going to be there. And then presumably, since
Well,
council
at least
members
3 have to
appoint.
be there.
Yeah.
Well, if you're
So
going to
that-
vote, but you may
yeah.
not vote at every meeting.
Okay.
Because you're an advisory
Right.
committee. Vacancies, presumably that since a council member appoints 2 public members, presumably, I'm assuming that council member would control that seat. In other words, that council member could remove somebody, appoint someone else, and would fill a vacancy. Is that the way we want to do it?
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Because if we're going to get this resolution back for signing, we want to make sure we
Okay.
cover as many bases as we can.
Yes.
It's not quite going to be the charter of the city, but have some of these things.
Council
in it.
member controls there
Yeah.
too. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what it means.
Okay.
What about absences? I mean, are we going to have a limitation? Like, what happens when you've pick somebody who is absent most of the time or is absent some of the time. What's the definition?
That's why I was
Ty.
suggesting to leave it to the council member.
Use that for so.
Andy kind of addressed it. The council member can remove someone they. Right.
I'm suggesting having a more
But-
arbitrary rule for council members, but it's up to you.
A more arbitrary.
In other words, more discretion with the council member over that council member's two appointees. So if the council member feels that an appointee is not showing up enough, they could remove
Pick
them.
someone else.
But what if someone else does? I mean, what if the person? What's our policy? Is it 40% of the time? 33%. If somebody misses more than 33% of the meetings on our boards or commissions, then they're potentially removed. If you're going to be on this committee, shouldn't you at least be attending more than 33%? So if you're not attending
Well,
more
we,
than
we could say that the council vacancy policy will apply. Right. That'd be a simple
okay,
way to do it. if
let's
you
do
wanna
that.
For all members of the committee. Is that what you're talking about?
I was talking about the ones we appoint, but I'm fine with it applying to council members too. It's just that council members are choosing to be on, so if you know what I mean, you can remove yourself anytime because it's not a requirement to be on this committee for us. But if someone from the public that you've appointed is on, the other council members who have committed this should not be stuck with somebody that another council member appointed who is not showing up.
I think I would recommend that we say that to the extent the vacancy policy applies, it's to the public members.
Yeah.
Not to the council
Okay.
members.
Vacancy applies to public members. Anything else you could think of, Andy?
Those are the main procedural things. Probably there will be a few other things that will come to mind.
Yeah. Jimmy, anything else that you're thinking of? That's all I had on my list. I just hope that someone, our new chairperson says that she's already got the spreadsheet, something that identifies for us at the first meeting all of the properties in this area.
Yes.
And who owns what business is in there, so we can all be aware of what is exactly downtown, who has been the owner for how long, and what have
I
been
thought
the.
you wanted to go through what we were going to work on at the first meeting.
Well, you will. I'm just saying that I hope somebody's prepared. That's not something to do at the first. That's a project.
That's a
You
project.
say you have it done, so you can just bring it and we can, yeah. I think that just needs to be a good starting point for everybody is to first acknowledge what's down there, what's empty.
What are the roadblocks?
How long has it been
Right.
empty?
Yep.
Who owns it?
Who
How
owns
long
it?
have they owned it?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So are we going to bring the resolution back to the May 1st meeting?
I would ask that we can do that, and we could even put it on consent, but it's a lot of language to craft here at the
we have
dais.
to work on it.
And we'd like legal review as well, since it is a Brown Act committee, if that's okay with council.
All right.
Public comment.
I asked for public comment. There wasn't any. So the chair and vice chair will get together and do the agendas? Is that what we said?
Yes, we will.
Okay, and you have to do it timely. If it's not noticed in time, guess what? We can't have the meeting. Okay, so
Jimmy, how
so
soon
you
do
guys
the
have to be
agenda? Because they
you
have to be
on it.
noticed a week before. You'll give me a matrix, a timeline. Thank you.
We got it, Mayor. We got it.
We got it.
I'm just
We
saying
can
this
handle
isn't something you can just oops, yeah, okay.
We have run meetings in our other careers.
That have to be publicly noticed. Okay,
And
I
we're-
haven't. So
Publicly noticed is just a date.
And we're going to give public.
Exactly.
We're going to give public comments 5 minutes, right?
It's fine. It's fine.
okay. So moving on. All right, city administrators report.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one quick report. Just want to let everybody know that we are doing our second community cleanup this Saturday in the Fight Dirty Love Gilroy program. It'll be at Los Alamos Park in the Mantelli parking lot beginning at 9 o'clock. Come with working clothes. We have trash bags, grab nabbers, everything you need to pick up garbage, and we'll be out there about an hour and a half. So please join us if you have time.
With all Little League out there.
Yes.
Okay.
With what?
Little League.
Jimmy, oh, go ahead. I'll wait till you're done. Are you done, Jimmy? Okay, Jimmy, I have a question. So, talking about cleanup, so as was mentioned earlier, sort of the cleanup efforts that the GDBA did in the Rotary. One of the areas, sort of in downtown, behind Rio Nilo, there's cars back there where there's actually people living in there. I don't know if that area is monitored because I was with some high school kids, and one of the guys came out and almost assaulted us. So I'm not sure if we can have somebody go out there and look at that place because I I know there's a van and other cars, and it seems like they're staying out there. Thank you.
Okay, City Attorney's report.
In view of the hour, no report.
Okay, with that, we are adjourned at 9:16 p.m. Thank you, everybody who stuck this out.